Chapter 12. Fu Yun took Kai Weicheng's words to heart. At night, she carried the baby and turned on her phone to download the Panda live streaming app. Kai Wen leaned in Fu Yun's arms and stared at the phone screen. He looked very serious, as if he could understand it. Fu Yun did not want the child to come into contact with electronic products too early, but this little guy was especially naughty tonight. Unless you did not play with your phone, you would stick to her as soon as you saw her pick up the phone. She had no choice but to carry the baby. Fortunately, the baby only wanted to watch and did not reach out to snatch the phone, so he did not disturb her. Fu Yun decided to start the live streaming as soon as possible. She felt that Brother Kai's suggestion was very helpful. She still had a job in this rural area, so she did not have many choices for live streaming content. She did not know how to cook famous dishes and only knew how to cook some home-cooked dishes. She could not sing better than professional singers. She had to show her face in a mukbang broadcast. She could not possibly film these unpolluted rural scenery, right? Fu Yun scrolled through the recommended live streaming on the homepage, and she could not stop scrolling. The live streaming room with millions of fans was super lively and interesting. No wonder the live streaming industry was so popular. It was indeed poisonous. Once you entered, you could not leave. If it were not for a little fat hand slapping on the screen, Fu Yun would continue to be addicted to the live streaming and could not stop. Only then did she remember her business. She had to study how the live streamer did it. She studied the rules, registered an account, opened the live streaming room, and chose the tag. What was the tag for cloud nurturing flowers? She searched and indeed, there was a live streaming related to flower nurturing, so she chose the tag accordingly. After studying the live streaming room, Fu Yun began to study the contract. If possible, Fu Yun did not want to sign the contract. She was worried that if her identity information was leaked, it would be easy to find traces. Then, her efforts to hide for so long would be in vain. The profits of Panda live streaming were divided into two categories: those who signed the contract and those who did not sign the contract. Those who did not sign the contract and the platform would get a 30-70 split. Those who signed the contract would get a higher percentage than those who did not sign the contract. Fu Yun felt that she was thinking too much. She might not be able to make any waves, so she did not have to think about signing the contract for the time being. Uncle Guo left with Kai Weicheng after dinner that day. Fu Yun Ruo took on the heavy responsibility of taking care of the flower beds. Early the next morning, she carried Wen over. This was the first time that Fu Yun was in charge of the orchids in the flower shed alone. She was quite nervous and tensed up even more. The value of the orchids in the flower shed was immeasurable. She had to take good care of them. If Fu Yun wanted to do a live broadcast of growing flowers, but the flowerbed was not her own, she felt that she had to seek the opinion of the owner of the flowerbed first. If Uncle Guo did not agree, she would think of something else. In short, she had to make the livestream a success. If Fu Yun had been taking care of and studying the orchids carefully during this period of time, she would not be able to get out of this pit. She was fascinated by the various forms of orchids and felt that it was a great thing to raise a flower calmly and let it bloom in its most beautiful form. She looked at the mutant orchid that Uncle Guo had spent so much effort to cultivate and wondered if she could cultivate a mutant orchid. Baby Wen was very quiet and obedient. If Fu Yun was working at the side, he would stay in the pram and hold a small toy car in his hand. He sat steadily and looked in Fu Yun Ruo's direction with his big black eyes from time to time. She was indeed the woman who gave birth to him. Even if she was barefaced, under the contrast of the orchids, she was more beautiful than a flower. His appearance was very similar to a woman's, but he was more handsome. In his previous life, even though there were many scandals and controversies about him, there were still many fans who were fascinated by his face. He approved of this woman's idea of becoming a livestream host to earn money and not show her face, but he was not willing for her to enter the entertainment industry. No one could understand it better than him, who had been in the entertainment industry for more than 10 years. He had climbed from the bottom to the top and had seen many dark and dirty things along the way. This woman was so naive and stupid, she would definitely be eaten until there was nothing left. So, it was fine to be a livestream host who did not show her face and earn some money. When he grew up, he would be able to earn money on his own. At that time, he would not have to worry about money anymore. Uncle Guo and Kai Wei Cheng came back in the afternoon of the second day. Uncle Guo was in front and walked quickly. Kai Wei Cheng carried 2 big bags and tried his best to catch up. They entered the house one after the other. Fu Yunruo had just coaxed Wen Wen to take an afternoon nap in the room. When she heard the commotion outside, she quickly walked out and greeted the 2 of them. Then, she asked with concern, "Uncle Guo, how's the checkup?" Uncle Guo snorted, "It's unnecessary." Then, he returned to his room. Kai Wei Cheng smiled and said, "It's not a big problem. It's just that her blood pressure is a little high. You just have to pay more attention to it." Fu Yunruo was relieved when she heard that. It was good that she was fine. "These are my teacher's medicine. When I'm not around, I'll have to trouble you to help supervise her." "Okay." Fu Yunruo looked at the number of times she had taken the medicine and silently remembered it in her heart. When Kai Wei Cheng returned, Fu Yunruo was embarrassed to leave him to take an afternoon nap. She whispered to Kai Wei Cheng in the living room. Kai Wei Cheng was very concerned about Fu Yunruo's future development and asked her if she had made a decision. Fu Yunruo honestly told him about her progress and then said, "But if I really want to do a live broadcast, I still have to ask Uncle Guo." "Teacher won't mind." Kai Wei Cheng said, "How do you plan to do a live broadcast?" "I've thought about this for a long time. I want to broadcast the process of me cultivating a mutated orchid." Fu Yunruo's eyes were sparkling. "Although I haven't cultivated one yet, I really want to cultivate a good-looking orchid like Uncle Guo." This was also a kind of flower cultivation. Fu Yunruo felt that compared to the process of watering, fertilizing, and patting the flowers every day, she felt that this was more challenging. Although it was very difficult, what if it worked? If she succeeded, she could also boast shamelessly that she was an expert in this field. Orchids normally took about 4 to 5 years to grow from seed to flower, but now that they paid attention to scientific cultivation, they could be artificially induced to shorten the time to 2 to 3 years. Fu Yunruo felt that she could start from seed. Even if she couldn't make it mutate in the end, it could still flower. It could be considered a perfect ending. After chatting for a while, Kai Weicheng's phone suddenly rang. He smiled apologetically at Fu Yunruo. "I'll take this call first." "Go ahead." Fu Yunruo smiled and replied. Kai Wei Cheng walked to the side to talk. Fu Yunruo thought that she had been out for quite a long time, so she quickly returned to her room. The moment the door closed, she could faintly hear Brother Kai say to the other side of the phone, "Soon," after she entered the room, when Wen was still asleep. Fu Yunruo heaved a sigh of relief. She thought that if the baby woke up and heard Brother Kai's voice, why didn't he make a fuss? She didn't know where the little guy's hostility came from. Fu Yunruo thought of the 2 words she accidentally heard and thought that Uncle Guo's physical examination had already been completed, so Brother Kai should be going back soon. Apple Entertainment was in the capital. As a top manager, he probably couldn't leave for too long. It was rare to have a friend who she could chat with. Thinking that they wouldn't be able to meet again soon, she felt quite reluctant. However, it was normal for people to meet and part. Because Kai Wei Cheng was around, Fu Yunruo wasn't in a hurry to get off work. She cooked dinner for them at around 5 o'clock and ate with them at their invitation. Fu Yunruo guessed correctly. After dinner, before she left, Kai Wei Cheng said goodbye to them. Fu Yunruo asked, "Are you leaving tonight?" "My flight is tomorrow. I have to leave tonight. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to make it." This remote village was very far from the city, and the road conditions were complicated. He had to drive 5 to 6 hours to find a hotel in the city to stay the night. The next day, he had to drive another 2 to 3 hours to the airport and take a flight back to the capital. Kai Wei Cheng didn't stay for long and was about to leave. Before he left, he asked Old Guo for a pot of orchids. Old Guo, who was already in a bad mood, suddenly frowned and said, "Get lost. Don't ruin my orchids." Although he was scolding, Old Guo still gave him a pot of orchids that looked the best to take care of. Kai Wei Cheng held the pot of orchids and quickly left with a smile. "Teacher, I'll come again next time when I'm free." Uncle Guo roared angrily, If you come again, I'll break your legs. Fu Yunruo didn't dare to say anything. She thought that Uncle Guo must be reluctant to let Brother Kai leave. He was actually very happy that someone remembered him, but he didn't mean what he said. However, she didn't expect that the next day, Uncle Guo was still angrily scolding Kai Wei Cheng for ruining the orchids. Fu Yunruo listened for a long time and couldn't help but say weakly, "Actually, Brother Kai is very good. He can take good care of the orchids. He was much more professional than her." Uncle Guo was still angry. That damn brat didn't want to take care of them himself. He wanted to give them to that brat. Every pot of orchids died. What a waste of my flowers. Fu Yunruo blinked her eyes. She was curious as to who that brat was. But Uncle Guo didn't say anything else. Fu Yunruo didn't ask further. She was afraid that the more she asked, the angrier he would be. After a long time, Fu Yunruo guessed that Uncle Guo wasn't angry anymore. She went up to him and asked, "Uncle Guo, do you think I can cultivate orchids now?" During this period of time, she had been assisting Uncle Guo. She had also read the few books that Uncle Guo gave her. But she didn't try it out, so she didn't know if it was possible. Uncle Guo looked over. Fu Yunruo felt a little embarrassed, but she still expressed her thoughts. "It's like this. I want to do a live broadcast." She explained her thoughts and the content of her live broadcast in detail. After Uncle Guo heard it, he snorted coldly. "You only know how to think of such fancy things." Then, he walked away with his hands behind his back. Fu Yunruo blinked. Did Uncle Guo mean that he agreed or disagreed? She couldn't figure out Uncle Guo's thoughts until she reached home. In the end, she thought listlessly that it probably wouldn't work. Fu Yunruo hugged her son and said dejectedly, "Son, it looks like we won't be able to earn pocket money part-time." She still had to continue thinking of suitable live broadcasts. Kai Wen exclaimed. He placed his soft chubby hand on her face. He thought to himself, "Stupid woman, Grandpa Guo didn't object to your live broadcast." Fu Yunruo didn't know what her son was thinking. Her depressed mood lasted until the next day. Fu Yunruo brought her son to the flower shed. She acutely realized that the layout of the flower shed had changed. Uncle Guo's flower shed was very big. It was nearly 1,000 square meters. In the past 20 years, he had cultivated orchids that were in good condition. There were only 73 pots of orchids that were in the process of being cultivated. Hence, there was a lot of space between them. But now, she clearly realized that many of the orchids that were convenient to move around had been moved. It was more orderly and saved more space. In the right corner of the flower shed, there was a large empty space. This empty space was surrounded by 2 shelves, leaving only one door open. Fu Yunruo walked in to take a look. There were many incubators with constant temperature, as well as potted plants and plant materials. Fu Yunruo's eyes welled up with tears. Uncle Guo walked in. He placed the seeds and sprouts in his hands on the plain table. "Uncle Guo, thank you." Fu Yunruo's eyes reddened. She thought that Uncle Guo didn't like her doing live broadcasts. She didn't expect that he would give her such a big surprise. She was so surprised that she wanted to cry. That was why she really, really liked this place. Her hometown in another world had a lot of kindness and beauty. Uncle Guo saw that she was so touched that her eyes were brimming with tears. He felt very awkward. "If you want to hua here. Don't touch my flowers." His tone was much gentler. "Okay." Fu Yunruo replied with a heavy nasal sound. Uncle Guo put down the things and left to observe his precious flowers. Fu Yunruo wiped away the tears from the corners of her eyes and began to arrange the seeds and sprouts. She smiled like a flower. This pear blossom with tears was very moving. On the other side, Kai Wei Cheng was travel-worn. He spent a day and a night returning to the capital. He didn't even have time to return home to put away his luggage before he was urgently summoned to the company. "Ah Cheng, you're finally back." Yuan Shin specially waited at the entrance of the building. When he saw Kai Wei Cheng, he immediately went up to him excitedly. "If you didn't come back, I wouldn't have been able to take it." "Yuan bro," Kai Wei Cheng shouted. Then he smiled and said, "Didn't I rush back?" It's been hard on you. Yuan Shin carefully took the pot of orchids from Kai Weicheng's hands. He let out a big sigh of relief. He could finally deal with that ancestor. Yuan Shin immediately returned to his well-dressed elite appearance and walked in side by side with Kai Weicheng. Yuan Bro, Kai Bro along the way, the company's celebrity employees all greeted them when they saw them. If Kai Weicheng was one of the publicly recognized top managers in the entertainment industry, then Yuan Shin was the king of the aces. Yuan Shin was 45 years old this year and was a legend in the entertainment industry. He was publicly recognized as the #1 manager and also the head of Apple Entertainment's management department. In his management career, he had only managed 3 celebrities. Each one of them eventually became a legend of their era. The first celebrity left the industry after reaching the top to get married and have children. The second celebrity unfortunately died of a terminal illness 3 years after reaching the top. Now, the third celebrity he managed was Apple Entertainment's #1, Tsai Yu, who had won the Golden Horse Award for 3 consecutive years. Tsai Yu debuted at the age of 20. In his first movie, he won the Best Actor Award and the Best Newcomer Award. However, he didn't reach the top immediately after his debut. Every time the marketing accounts said that he was going to fall, he would always use more and more dazzling results to refresh the world's understanding of the peak. Originally, managing such a superstar was the most dazzling achievement in Yuan Shin's career. However, after working together for so many years, he just wanted to beat himself to death for trying so hard to sign him. He was hard to please and his temper wasn't bad. It was just that sometimes, he was too much of a dog. He felt that he had lost a lot of hair. For example, recently, his new orchid died after 5 days. Then, his attitude was the same. A famous television station invited him to participate in a variety show. The flower died and he didn't want to go. A famous director invited him to be the male lead in a movie. The flower died and he didn't want to do it. A popular IP script was sent to him to see if he was interested. The flower died and he didn't want to watch it. This wasn't the most infuriating thing. After hearing that Kai Weicheng was going to visit his teacher, he started to cause trouble again. He insisted on buying a pot of his teacher's orchid to raise. The reason was because his teacher's orchid had only withered after half a month. At first, he could still buy it. Later, his teacher somehow found out that all the flowers he sold had died and refused to sell them. No matter how high the price was, there was no room for negotiation. No matter who tried to persuade him, it was useless. This time, when he heard that Kai Weicheng was going, he insisted on buying a pot. He clearly knew that if he raised a pot, it would die. However, he didn't believe it. In his opinion, the orchid was so cute. Wouldn't it be better to let it be beautiful alone? If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted this dog of a man who hadn't accepted any scripts for more than a year to do some work, he wouldn't have followed him to harm this pitiful plant. Chapter 13. Yuan Shin pushed the door open and entered. When he looked up, he saw a man in a casual suit leaning against a black office chair. His long legs were propped up on the table and the back of his head was resting on the back of the chair. His upturned face was covered with a book. Hearing the movement at the door, the man didn't move. It was as if he hadn't heard anything in his deep sleep. Yuan Shin wasn't in a hurry. He placed the potted plant on the table and unhurriedly took out a few scripts from his briefcase. He placed them separately on the table. Then, he knocked on the table. "These are the good scripts I picked out recently. Which one do you want to act in?" After a moment, his slender fingers took down the book, revealing a handsome face. The man lay lazily. He lifted his eyelids and said casually, "The flowers are dead." Halfway through his sentence, his eyes inadvertently swept across the potted plant on the table. A potted green orchid came into view. Thus, he changed the topic very naturally. "I really need work to soothe my sadness." Yuan Shin puffed out his chest. He knew he could control this ancestor. Then, he pushed the script to him. Tsai Yu's eyes casually swept over the script and pointed at one of the scripts. "I'll take this one." Yuan Shin picked it up and glanced at it. Then, he nodded in agreement. "Okay, I'll contact the director now. I'll push the rest for you." This production crew will officially start filming in half a month. You have to join the crew on time. I'll send you the complete script later. During this time, think about it carefully so that you don't embarrass me. Sayu clicked his tongue. Can't you say something nicer? Was this something a human would say? He was the winner of the Golden Horse Best Actor Awards. How could he fail at acting? Yuan Shin snorted to show his merciless mockery towards Sayu. Sayu's eyes were glued to the potted plant again. Kai Wei Cheng is back. His back, you. Yuan Shin was about to continue speaking when he was interrupted by a knock on the door. Yuan Shin looked at the door and said, "Come in." A secretary with exquisite makeup in high heels pushed the door open and said formally, "Best Actor Sai, Brother Yuan, Miss Fang Shueruo is here. She wants to see Best Actor Sai." The woman tried her best to appear businesslike, but when her gaze landed on Sayu's face, she couldn't help but blush. That handsome face was too lethal for women. It was dazzling and mesmerizing. Why is she here again? Yuan Shin frowned when he heard the name. The word again was used cleverly, indicating that this was not the first time she had come here, and it also showed their attitude towards this. Sayu replied impatiently, "I'm not seeing him." Yuan Shin had no objections. He said to the woman, "Tell her that Best Actor Sai isn't here. Tell her to make an appointment with me before she comes." "All right." The woman nodded in response. She couldn't help but take a few more glances at Sai Yingdi before closing the door and leaving with a red face. Yuan Shin clicked his tongue and said, "You're a scourge. Couldn't these girls see their nature? Appearances can blind one's eyes. I was born with it." Sayu strode around the table with his long legs and walked to Yuan Shin's side. He picked up the potted plant naturally and turned to leave the office. "I'll go back first. Call me if there's anything." Yuan Shin replied and reminded him repeatedly, "Remember to read the script." Sayu didn't even turn his head. He just waved his hand in response. Apple Entertainment had a special staircase for celebrities to leave from a secluded intersection to avoid being followed by the paparazzi. Sayu walked to the car park. Sayu carefully placed the potted plant in the front seat and fixed it properly. He closed the car door and walked to the driver's seat, preparing to open the door and drive away. "Best Actor Sai." A crisp and pleasant female voice sounded from not too far away, followed by the sound of high heels clicking on the floorboards. "Please wait." He had thought that he hadn't alerted anyone, but he hadn't expected that the woman who had been waiting for him to leave would appear here. It seemed like the people at Apple Entertainment needed to be taught a lesson. Sayu glanced at her casually. Fang Shui lowered her head slightly, took off her sunglasses, and looked up. "Best Actor Sai." Fang Shui's exquisite face was cold. "We need to talk." Sayu clicked his tongue. "I don't think there's anything to talk about." Sayu opened the car door and prepared to leave. When Fang Shui saw that Sayu was really about to leave, she hurried forward and reached out to pull the car door open. Sayu pursed his lips unhappily. "Miss Fang, you're the star of the rival company. Isn't it inappropriate for you to appear at Apple Entertainment like this?" Apple Entertainment and Orange Entertainment were sworn enemies. As the pillar of Orange Entertainment, it would be interesting if he appeared in Apple Entertainment and specifically came to stop him if he was photographed by the gossip reporters. He didn't want his name to be mentioned in the same breath as this woman. Fang Shui looked up at him, revealing her fair and slender neck. Her expression was weak and stubborn. "Where's my sister?" Sayu sneered. He crossed his arms and his lips curled into a cold smile. "How strange. Where is Miss Fang's sister? Why are you asking me about her? What kind of logic is this?" A trace of embarrassment flashed across her face. She bit her bright red lips and said, "You were at the hotel that day, right? My sister disappeared after leaving the hotel. We couldn't find her. Uncle is very worried about her safety. If you know where she is, please let us know. We're really worried about her." The day after they found out that her sister was missing, they sent people to investigate. However, they didn't expect to meet with resistance. They only found out that she left the hotel and where she went after that. They couldn't find any trace of her. It was as though someone had erased all traces of her. Other than Sayu, who was also at the hotel that day. She couldn't think of anyone else who had such power. That day, a reporter accidentally took a picture of her sister. However, it was suppressed and didn't cause a stir. Her friends in the industry told her in private that it was Apple Entertainment. She didn't know when her sister met Sai Yu and why he helped her. Sai Yu looked at Fang Shui as though she was a clown. There were at least a few dozen people at the hotel. Why don't you ask others? If you can't find her, you can go to the police. Okay. But Sai Yu didn't want to listen to her nonsense. He opened the car door forcefully, got into the driver's seat, and slammed the door shut. Fang Shui staggered and couldn't help but take 2 steps back. Best actor Sai. Best actor Sai. She took a few steps forward, but because she was in a hurry, she accidentally twisted her ankle. Just as she was about to fall, a figure rushed over and pulled her into his arms. Fang Shui gasped and fell into his broad chest. She only had time to see the tail end of a low-profile black car before it drove out of the parking lot. She looked away in disappointment. Then, as though she remembered something, she looked up and said in surprise, "Brother Chang? Why are you here?" Chang Zhuyu looked at Fang Shui affectionately. "What if you got bullied if I didn't come?" Chang Zhuyu felt uneasy when he thought about what he had just seen. He had come too late and caused the woman he cared about the most to suffer. Fang Shui retreated from his embrace and tucked her hair behind her ear. She said gently, "I can handle it." Chang Zhuyu sneered. "I think Sai Yu doesn't care about the Chang family and the Fu family at all." Fang Shui's eyes darkened and she said in a low voice, "I'm not really a member of the Fu family." Before she could finish, Chang Zhuyu interrupted her. "Why do you think that way? Uncle Fu treats you like his own daughter. No one dares to deny that you're a member of the Fu family." Fang Shui smiled faintly without a trace of sadness. "You know that I don't care about these things. I know that you're kind and considerate of others. You're so tenacious and kind. No one would dislike you," Chang Zhuyu said affectionately. Chang Zhuyu said affectionately, "Falling in love with you is the least regretful thing in my life." Fang Shui blushed slightly and frowned. "Uncle Fu treats me so well. I want to help him find my sister, but..." Chang Zhuyu's expression darkened at the mention of the Fu family. He sneered. "She treated you so badly and you still care about her? She might not even appreciate it." Fang Shui said softly, "It doesn't matter if she admits it or not. In my heart, she's my sister. How can I be at ease now that her whereabouts are unknown? You're just too kind." Chang Zhuyu felt that it was unfair to his sweetheart, but he couldn't bear to blame her. After all, she wouldn't be at a disadvantage with him around. Fang Shui said worriedly, "But Best Actor Sai still refuses to reveal anything. If there's no other way, we can call the police and sue Sai Yu for kidnapping someone." "Don't." Fang Shui refused. "That's not a good idea. Best Actor Sai's fame didn't come easily. If this matter is exposed, his reputation will be ruined." Chang Zhuyu said jealously, "Why do you care so much about him?" Fang Shui shook her head. "It's not that I care. We can't blow this matter up." She took Chang Zhuyu's hand and said gently, "All right, let's think of another way. Let's leave. It'll be hard to explain if the reporters see us." "Okay." Her soft and delicate hand held his. Chang Zhuyu instantly forgot about everyone and everything else. There was only one thought in his mind. Shui Ruo took the initiative to hold his hand. Sai Yu drove the car away. From the rearview mirror, he could see a man rushing out and hugging the woman. He sneered. This adulterous couple was a match made in heaven. The car drove onto the road and merged into the traffic. Sai Yu pursed his lips into a straight line. When the woman mentioned the incident, he couldn't help but recall that terrible but not too bad night. He had been careless and had wanted to rely on his willpower to survive for a while until Yuan Xin came to pick him up. He hadn't expected that a woman would suddenly pounce on him. Moreover, it was a woman who had also been drugged. He had wanted to hold it in, but he hadn't expected the woman to hug him and squirm against him. He had lost his rationality and spent a chaotic night. When Yuan Xin rushed to the hotel, he knocked on the door but there was no response. The first thing he did was to take control of the hotel and check the surveillance cameras. When he saw Sai Yu bringing a woman back to his room, He knew that he was too late and could only try to remedy the situation. Yuan Shin immediately destroyed the surveillance cameras and found out that the woman wasn't arranged in advance. Instead, she was the Fu family's eldest young mistress with a bad reputation. Yuan Shin didn't sleep the entire night. He was afraid that this matter would be exposed. He used all his connections to take care of everything. When he found out that the media was preparing to release negative news about Fu Yunruo, he suppressed it. He hadn't expected that Fu Yunruo would escape in a hurry after he dozed off. Looking at her posture, it seemed that she wanted to completely disappear in front of people. Yuan Shin hurriedly knocked on the door to wake Sai Yu up and quickly explained the matter. Sai Yu was very satisfied with Yuan Shin's way of handling things. When he found out that someone was looking for the woman with bad intentions, he wiped away the traces. In fact, he really didn't know where the woman had gone in the end. He didn't specially look for her. Even though they had crossed paths that night, they had never met before. Since she didn't want him to take responsibility, he didn't care. However, although the woman had a bad reputation, he didn't hate her that night. On the contrary, he felt that she was quite good. Otherwise, he wouldn't have helped her. But he didn't want to be targeted by an annoying woman because of this. Sai Yu knocked on the steering wheel. Since they were so free, he would find something for them to do. Fu Yunruo didn't know what was happening thousands of miles away. She tidied up her greenhouse and made sure that everything was prepared before the live broadcast. Then, she nervously started her first live broadcast. She only had a cell phone as her live broadcast equipment. This cell phone was her most valuable asset at the moment. It was the most high-end cell phone in the country. The resolution of the camera was very high, and the original image was comparable to a professional camera. After opening the live broadcast room, Fu Yunruo started the live broadcast based on her intuition. Hello everyone, I'm Yunhuan Yunshu. This is my live broadcast room. The purpose of my live broadcast is to raise flowers with everyone. I hope that we can raise amazing orchids. This is the greenhouse. She walked around the greenhouse with the camera. Then, she introduced the utensils, seeds, and seedlings one by one. Then, she talked about her own thoughts. Regardless of whether there was an audience or not, she still spoke very seriously. As she spoke, she suddenly saw a pop-up comment on the screen. Mrs. Voice is so nice. I love it. I love it. Fu Yunruo's eyes curved as she happily said, "Thank you for the compliment." Only then did she notice that the number of viewers in the live broadcast room had jumped from 0 to 8. She was even happier. It seemed that live broadcasting wasn't that difficult. Miss must be very beautiful. Show your face tilde. A second pop-up comment floated past. Fu Yunruo playfully replied, I won't show my face. My live broadcast doesn't show my face, only the orchids and grasses. Hua Hua is so beautiful. Can you bear to only look at the streamer and not Hua Hua? The streamer is so interesting tilde. Hua Hua wants to see it. The streamer also wants to see it. Fu Yunruo laughed. The streamer won't let me see it, only the orchids and grasses tilde. The number of viewers quickly jumped up, and it suddenly became 23. Fu Yunruo chatted with 1 or 2 active viewers for a while, then said, back to the topic. I'm going to start planting flowers. This is the seed of the lotus petal orchid. This is the jade magnolias. Fu Yunruo introduced the types of seeds, fixed her phone, and aimed the camera at the empty flower pot on the table. This was an angle that she had spent a long time studying. It could clearly capture her movements, but she would not appear in the camera. Originally, Fu Yunruo only planned to raise 1 pot of flowers and try to raise a mutated orchid. However, Uncle Guo gave her a lot of orchid seeds and sprouts. Fu Yunruo decided to choose 10 types of orchids and only cultivate 10 pots. Her energy was limited, so she could only focus on raising so many orchids. Of these 10 types of orchids, I've decided to choose a lucky audience to choose the seeds every day. I chose the lotus petal orchid seed myself, so I'll plant this today. As Fu Yunruo explained, she adjusted the soil ratio and placed it into a container to plant the lotus petal orchid seed. Finally, she took her phone and looked at the screen. The number of viewers had already reached 259, and there were many more messages on the screen. Everyone seemed to be very interested in the matter of choosing the seeds. Also, they were interested in her, the streamer. Fuyun Ruo finally said, "Next, I'll post a message on the forum and launch a poll for tomorrow's seeds. Everyone, please vote and leave a message to support whatever flowers you want to raise. Click on the top right to follow the streamer and don't get lost. See you tomorrow." After saying that, Fuyun Ruo turned off the live broadcast. She went to the personal center to check the data of her live broadcast room. At the peak of her popularity, there were nearly 400 people, but they just came in and out. In the end, an average of 200 people stayed. She was very satisfied with the data and felt very surprised. She thought that no one would watch her live broadcast on her first day. Chapter 14. Panda livestreaming was quite friendly to newbies. There was a column dedicated to recommending new livestreaming rooms, and there was a 15-day recommendation period. During these 15 days, she would have the opportunity to show her face in the recommendation column when she was livestreaming. It was possible that she would only show her face for 15 seconds if she livestreamed for 2 hours a day. However, one had to know that Panda livestreaming was one of the largest livestreaming platforms in the world. There were 3 billion registered users, and the average daily traffic was 1 billion times. The daily traffic in the country also reached 100 million people. It could be said that even if it only appeared in the recommendation column for a second, there would be thousands of people on average. There might be 200 to 300 people who would click on it. At this time, it was time to see whose cover would attract more people to watch. The cover of Fuyun Ruo's livestreaming room was a blooming orchid. The category she chose was also related to plants, so it attracted people who were generally interested in flowers. Among the audience who had settled down to watch, nearly half of them paid attention to her. The next time she livestreamed, these people would be the foundation of her popularity. After Fuyun Ruo saw the data, she quickly went to the forum to post a message and started voting. There was a forum in the app, and the traffic was not low. It was comparable to a second Weibo. If the fans of celebrities were on Weibo, then the fans of broadcasters were on the forum. However, the two were also interconnected. Many popular figures would manage fans on both sides at the same time. After posting, Fuyun Ruo could not help but go back to the bullet screen in the livestreaming room. Previously, she was more focused on explaining and did not see many of the comments. Now that she looked again, the audience was very friendly. These viewers were roughly divided into 2 categories. One was attracted by her livestreaming content, and the other was attracted by her voice or her hands. No matter what, at least she stayed for the time being. Moreover, she received a gift. Although it was a free little bamboo given by the app every day. Fuyun Ruo clenched her fists and jumped happily. Then, she continued to fiddle with the orchid with a smile on her face. Although these were not live-streamed, the flower seedlings that had been separated had to be planted and raised well. Uncle Guo was watching when baby outside. He knew that today was Fuyun Ruo's first livestream, so he carefully played with the child and tried not to make any noise. He could vaguely hear her voice, and she seemed to be very happy. He did not understand these things, but this should be very good. Uncle Guo sat beside the floor mat and looked at the chubby, white, and cute little guy kindly. After replanning the area of the flower shed, a special area was created. The surrounding area was surrounded by wooden strips, leaving only a small path for one person to pass through. The area was not large, only enough to fit a floor mat. However, for a child who had just learned how to crawl, this area was enough for him to explore. Kai Wen really wanted to know how the woman's livestream turned out. Did anyone say anything bad about her? Would the woman be hurt and upset after seeing it? Kai Wen had a lot to worry about. He played with the building blocks absent-mindedly and pricked up his ears to listen to the movements inside. It was not easy to hear that the room seemed to have completely quieted down. There was no sound of talking. Kai Wen thought that it should be over. Kai Wen waited for a long time, but no one came out. He couldn't hold it in any longer and let out a few loud cries. Why didn't he come out when it was already over? She couldn't have forgotten about him, right? Old Man Gua immediately picked up the small building blocks scattered on the side and tried to put on a kind face. Grandpa, play with Wen. Let's build a small house together. Kai Wen said to Grandpa Gua. He didn't want to play. He just wanted to know how the livestream turned out. If there was no audience, he would be merciful and comfort her. In any industry, everything was difficult at the beginning. Don't give up easily because of a small setback at the beginning. Fu Yunruo had just planted the seedling into the flower pot when she heard her son's childish voice. She quickly put the potted plant away and ran out to find her son. Baby, Mommy is here. Fu Yunruo quickly walked over, took off her shoes, and entered her son's territory. She picked up his soft and fragrant little body and kissed him a few times. Then, she rubbed his little face. After coaxing her baby son, Fu Yunruo smiled and said to Uncle Gua, Uncle Gua, thank you for looking after Wen. Uncle Gua was rarely gentle. Wen is very obedient. It's not hard. Uncle Gua stood up and took a few more glances at Wen. Kai Wen turned his head to look at Grandpa Gua and made a sound at him. He even waved his little chubby hand at him as if he was saying goodbye. Old Man Gua immediately left with his hands behind his back, satisfied. Fu Yunruo sat on the cushion and held Wen's baby in front of her. She pinched the baby's chubby little hand. Every time she pressed, the baby's hand would bounce back. She simply couldn't stop. Fu Yunruo's greatest sense of accomplishment was raising her son to be fair, chubby, and healthy. His little hands and feet were like lotus roots, and his beautiful and cute little face was also chubby and bouncy. He really made people love him so much that they couldn't bear to part with him. Kai Wen allowed this woman to touch him. His chubby little face was full of helplessness. He tried his best to keep a straight face, but his black pearl-like bright eyes were full of smiles. Kai Wen looked up at Fu Yunruo and patted her with his little hand. He was serious, as if he was talking to Fu Yunruo. Fu Yunruo was so adorable that she couldn't take it anymore. She rubbed her son again before hugging him in satisfaction and muttering, Baby, we'll be able to earn a lot of money soon. Mommy's livestream is very popular. Who knows, I might be able to reach the peak of my life very soon and bring you to eat and drink well. Once Fu Yunruo started talking, she couldn't help but want to talk, even if her baby didn't understand. Do you know how many people are following me after I ended the livestream? 119. I already have so many fans. This is my first day of live streaming. If I gain 100 fans today, it will be 1,000 in 10 days. Wouldn't it be 10,000 in 100 days? I'll live stream for 1 or 2 years. Oh God, the number of fans she had was almost uncountable. Fu Yunruo seemed to see a beautiful road ahead. Kai Wen. He really couldn't bear to discourage her. Fans weren't calculated like this. He used to have an account on Panda Livestream. At his peak, he had more than 100 million followers. On average, the number of active fans per day was at most 10 million. Moreover, fans would come and go. Some people would follow and some would unfollow. The fans now might be passers-by who followed in passing. They couldn't be considered fans yet. In order to turn passers-by fans into real fans, he needed to have better quality works and show a side that fans appreciated and were fascinated by. There had to be something that touched the fans. Moreover, Panda Livestream's newcomer recommendation period was only 15 days. After 15 days, if there was no contract or platform promotion, they would purely rely on popularity to get on the list. The rookies, who had no way to stand out, were left with no chance of making a splash. Finally, they fell silent. Forget it, he didn't know how to speak. If she lost fans, he would reluctantly give her a kiss to comfort her. Fu Yunruo was extremely excited the whole day. She couldn't help but look at the forum's comments from time to time. There weren't many people voting at the voting window. There were only about 20 people, and there were only 3 to 5 comments. However, Fu Yunruo couldn't help but refresh from time to see if there were any new votes or new comments. Adding a new comment in half a day made her extremely happy. However, there were many things to do in the flower bed. She also had to take care of a baby. She didn't have much free time. The day passed quickly. At night, after washing up, Fu Yunruo hugged the baby's soft body. She couldn't help but pick up her phone again. She hadn't looked at it for 3 hours. She didn't know if there were any more comments. She wanted to see which type of orchid to plant tomorrow. As Fu Yunruo scrolled, she suddenly screamed. Her popularity and followers had decreased. Fu Yunruo refreshed a few times. She was very sure that there were 8 fewer followers. She suddenly looked sad. Why didn't it increase? Kai Wen subconsciously raised his 2 chubby little feet forward and grabbed them with both hands. His flexible little body bent into an incredible arc. He raised his little feet and turned to look at the woman. He wasn't surprised that she had lost fans. Thinking of the thoughts he had during the day, he put down his little feet and twisted his body. He climbed onto her body and leaned over to give her a domineering kiss. All right, don't be discouraged. Don't be disheartened. Fu Yunruo's cheeks were suddenly touched softly. She was so shocked that she almost dropped her phone. Her baby rarely took the initiative to get close to her. Fu Yunruo looked at her son and was so touched that her eyes welled up with tears. Was her baby comforting her? She was too touched. The touched Fu Yunruo molested went from head to toe. The struggling baby was like a little tortoise that had been flipped over. His 4 limbs were flailing in the air. Ah, this despicable woman. Chapter 15. Kai Wen's small body was as red as a crayfish. He struggled to break free from the woman's molestation and crawled to the innermost part of the bed. He lay on his stomach and shut himself in. This woman was too despicable. He was comforting her out of kindness, but she actually treated him like this. Did he not want his face? He was angry. Fu Yunruo snickered behind his back. The baby was still so shy. He was really too cute. Even though she wanted to pounce on him again, she knew that if she continued, the baby would fly into a rage out of humiliation and ignore her for a few days. However, after the baby's comfort, Fu Yunruo's depressed mood was swept away, and her mood became cheerful. Fu Yunruo waited for a long time. When her son's angry hair was soothed, she carried the shy baby over and hugged him by her side. Her palm patted the baby's back regularly and gently. Kai Wenruo closed his eyes tightly and buried himself in. He half lay on the soft body and adjusted his comfortable position. Under the rhythmic patting, he quickly fell asleep. After coaxing the baby to sleep, Fu Yunruo continued to browse the forum. She was originally very satisfied with her data, but now that she was hit by reality, her high mood cooled down. She began to worry about her gains and losses. She did not know what kind of data a newbie's first livestream would pass. Fu Yunruo flipped through the forum for a long time and finally found a more reliable data analysis. Then, she compared her data. She immediately knew what was going on. She was considered to be above average. Her results were not bad. Although she could not compare to those streamers who became popular as soon as they started their livestream, they were in the minority. Most of them were people who slowly accumulated popularity. As long as she could stabilize herself, there would be a day when she could do it. Fu Yunruo had an idea in her heart. Only then did she put down her phone. She hugged the hot stove and fell asleep contentedly. The next day, Fu Yunruo brought the child to the flowerbed early. She was prepared to help Uncle Guo with the work in the flowerbed first before doing her own things. However, Uncle Guo chased her away in disdain and told her to only care about the work in the small greenhouse. Uncle Guo said very clearly that the task he gave her was to take care of the seeds and flower seedlings that he gave out. Fu Yunruo had to go to the small greenhouse. She tied it up a little, then turned on the live broadcast. The camera was aimed at the soil where she had just planted the seeds yesterday. Good morning, my friends. We meet again today. What if Fu Yun had just said something, and the upper right corner of the screen showed that there was only one viewer? Fu Yun was puzzled. Didn't she have more than 100 followers yesterday? Why didn't anyone watch her live stream? It couldn't be fake attention, right? Fu Yunruo suddenly slapped her head. Why did I forget to inform you of the broadcast time yesterday? Since the fans didn't know when the broadcast would start, they naturally wouldn't come. The blogger is so cute 2333. At this moment, a comment floated over. Although it was only one fan, Fu Yun still treated it seriously and explained seriously, "This is my first time doing a live broadcast. I don't have any experience. You'll know next time. Bloggers can activate the automatic push function." That's right, why didn't she think of that? She turned on the push function. As long as she started the broadcast, it would automatically be pushed to her fans. If she didn't turn it on, it wouldn't be automatically pushed. On the other hand, if fans felt that it was too troublesome to constantly receive notifications, they could block all or part of the notifications from the blogger. This was a two-way choice. Fu Yun Ruo held her phone and quickly found the settings. Then, she turned it on. Just as she returned to the livestream interface, she saw another comment. The blogger can also upload the video of her every livestream to the homepage. This way, future viewers can watch your previous livestreams. That's right. Fans can also watch it in the future. Soon, there were already 18 people watching the livestream. Fu Yun Ruo listened to their opinions very seriously. Yes, that's true. Previously, she was only thinking about how to start a livestream. She didn't think about what to do after starting a livestream. But how was the screen recording done? Under the guidance of her fans, Fu Yun Ruo finally understood. This screen recording was automatically recorded by the platform. There would be an initial livestream video in her personal platform. The streamer could edit or modify the video slightly to make it more lively and interesting before uploading it to the homepage. It was inconvenient without a computer. Fu Yun Ruo had not started to earn money yet and was already thinking about spending money. However, this was a necessary investment. After calculating the money she had available, it was pitifully little. Fu Yun Ruo silently dismissed this idea. It was better to wait until she earned more money. She could not touch that money. She had to raise her baby. She did not know if it was because of the push function, but the number of viewers quickly jumped up. Fu Yun Ruo also started to plant the second variety of orchid seeds. After a night, the number of people voting on the forum was still not many, but there was obviously a higher support rate in the choices. The second variety was the seeds of the jasper magnolia. She explained as she planted the seeds. Then, she said, "All right, the second child has been planted. Next, let's look forward to the birth of the second child. Second child age. Yes, this is our second child. Next, let's pay attention to the eldest child. Although we already have a second child, we can't reduce our attention to the eldest child. Otherwise, if the eldest child gets jealous and doesn't germinate, the second child will germinate first. That wouldn't be good. Yun Ruo is really funny. Yes, we can't let the second child be born before the eldest child." Ha 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 ha. Fu Yun Ruo could not help but laugh. Time passed very quickly. Fu Yun Ruo saw that it was about time and was ready to go offline. Then, she said, "All right, according to yesterday's rules, I will start a vote on the forum later. Whoever you want to be the third child, move your fingers and cast a precious vote. Finally, remember to click on the top right to follow the live broadcast. Let's continue chatting tomorrow." Then, she said the time of tomorrow's live broadcast before closing the live broadcast. Fu Yun Ruo's live broadcast time was actually not friendly. She started the live broadcast before 7 in the morning and ended around 10 in the morning. At this time, she was either still dreaming in bed or rushing to work. During work hours, it was also the time when students went to school. That was the time when there was the least traffic. The most traffic was on weekends, holidays, and after 6 in the evening. Fu Yun Ruo's live broadcast time happened to miss the peak traffic period. Most of the people who came to watch her live broadcast in the morning were office workers who turned on the live broadcast during the taxi period. For the time being, they could not take advantage of the peak traffic period at night. They could only take advantage of the small peak traffic period around 7 in the morning and 12 in the afternoon. Fu Yun Ruo felt that it was most suitable to plant flowers early in the morning. Therefore, she decided to do a live broadcast at this time for the time being. After the live broadcast ended, Fu Yun Ruo started the second round of voting and looked at the data. Today's data had more than tripled from yesterday. The comment section was also much livelier. Her number of followers was close to 400, and there was one more than yesterday. She had received a gift. Yesterday's gift was the little bamboo that the platform gave her for free every day. Today, it was not only the little bamboo, but someone had also given her a reward. She looked at the platform. Those gifts were converted to RMB, which was 20 yuan. One had to know that this was the amount after she split it with the platform. Fu Yunruo was very happy and was even more motivated. She wanted to do better, so she became more and more attentive to the live broadcast. In another city, in a high-end villa area with high privacy, Yuan Xin stood in front of a villa in an aggressive manner. He pressed the doorbell and shouted at the camera, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Sai Yu, open the door for me. I know you're inside. If you have the guts, hide in the house. If you have the guts, open the door for me." Yuan Xin shouted outside for a long time before the door slowly opened. He rushed in without stopping. Sai Yu walked out leisurely with a languid expression. "Who made our Yuan angry? Look at how angry you are. Your hair has exploded. You're already bald. If this goes on, you'll become bald. You still have the cheek to say that." Yuan Xin was furious. "Filming is starting tomorrow and you're still so relaxed. As the male lead, do you still want to be absent?" Sai Yu frowned. "I'm not in the mood, master. I called you ancestor. What's wrong with you?" Sai Yu's gaze shifted to the greenhouse in the courtyard. The flowers are dead. Sai Yu's greenhouse was specially built to raise flowers. It was well equipped, but it was bare inside. There were no flowers, not even sprouts. Yuan Xin. The orchid that he had painstakingly obtained finally couldn't withstand Best Actor Sai's poisonous gas attack after stubbornly surviving for 12 days. Had it died in battle? Yuan Xin said coldly, "Give up. You can't raise a flower." He really admired Sai Yu. How did he manage to kill every flower he tried to raise? He was simply crazy. Sai Yu was possessed by a drama queen. His eyes were filled with resentment and hatred, mixed with love and lust. It was heartbreaking to watch. Why? All my thoughts are on it. I've always kept it in my eyes and in my heart. I've sacrificed so much for it, but it's still determined to leave me. Even though Yuan Xin had seen his acting countless times, he couldn't help but be led by the nose. This time, he steeled his heart and avoided looking at him. Could it be that I'm too handsome, so handsome that it's too ashamed to face me and decided to just die? Sai Yu instantly switched to his narcissistic mode. He touched his face. Today was still a day of frustration over his extreme handsomeness. Shameless. Yuan Xin spat in his heart. He really didn't have the energy to complain. "Tell me, what will it take for you to go to the set?" Yuan Xin crossed his arms. He really wanted to drag him to the car and go to the set immediately. "I want to raise flowers." People always said that if they couldn't get something, they would want it even more. Since young, Sai Yu naturally had countless people eagerly giving him whatever he wanted. There was nothing he couldn't do. However, since kindergarten, his teacher had given him a homework assignment. He had to learn how to raise a flower with his family. That was the only assignment that he couldn't complete until now. He didn't believe in ghosts. At that time, he had chosen orchids for the assignment, so he had a conflict with them. After so many years, he had gotten used to raising orchids from time to time. Yuan Xin facepalmed. This problem was unsolvable. He also didn't know how to make Sai Yu raise a flower. Was he supposed to ask someone else to do it for him? Yuan Xin had a flash of inspiration. He had an idea. "So as long as you succeed in raising the flower, you'll focus on acting?" Sai Yu raised his eyebrows and nodded lazily. Yuan Xin pushed his luck. "There's a talk show. As long as I can raise the flower, I'll go on the talk show." This year's Spring Festival Gala? Sai Yu looked at Yuan Xin suspiciously. He was so arrogant. Did he really have a way? "I'll do it." Yuan Xin instantly smiled. He swiped his phone screen and opened an app. "Here, you can raise flowers here." "What do you mean?" "There's a blogger who's raising orchids here. You can raise flowers here." Yuan Xin thought about the live stream that he had seen 2 days ago. He had found it interesting and casually asked about it. He knew that it was a live stream about raising orchids. Kai Wei-cheng had also told him about it. He thought, isn't this just right? Since Sai Yu couldn't raise orchids, he could raise them in the cloud. This guy couldn't possibly poison orchids that were thousands of miles away, right? He searched for the livestream that he had seen that day. After confirming that it was this livestream, he sent it to Sai Yu. You can raise flowers here in the future. The streamer starts from seeds. I heard that she wants to try raising a mutated variety. Who knows, you might not only be able to raise living orchids, but you might also be able to raise a mutated variety. Sai Yu raised his eyebrows. Yuan Xin said confidently, raising flowers in the cloud is still raising flowers. You won't deny it, right? Sai Yu glanced at him indifferently and thought, when did this guy become so smart? Yuan Xin kept recommending, I don't like to watch such live streams, but I have to say that this blogger was born to do this. Raising flowers isn't boring at all. Also, she started these voting campaigns to let the audience choose the variety. It's very attractive to those who really want to raise flowers but have to put it on hold due to various problems. Sai Yu was a little interested. However, there was no live stream at this time, so everything had to be decided. She said, I hope it's as interesting as you say. Otherwise, you can forget about the interview and the annual meeting. As she spoke, Sai Yu went back into the house and brought out her luggage that she had packed earlier. Yuan Xin wiped the sweat off his forehead. He thought to himself, one day, I'll go on strike. Whoever wants to serve this bastard can do it. Chapter 16. Translator, Atlas Studios Editor. Atlas Studios. On the first day of filming, the crew was busy preparing for the opening ceremony under the instructions of the assistant director. The ceremony started at 8 o'clock sharp. By 7 o'clock, the venue was already bustling with activity. Sai Yu appeared before 7 o'clock and sat in his private lounge. As the male lead, he wasn't busy. He was just waiting for the right time to show his face. He seemed lazy and pretentious in front of his agent, but in reality, his image was perfect. He was dedicated and never acted like a big shot. He had already memorized the script and rehearsed it in his head many times. As he played with his phone, he suddenly thought of the flower-rearing livestream that his agent had recommended. Sai Yu opened the platform and logged in with his alternate account. He found the livestream and entered at the right time. The host had just started broadcasting for 2 minutes. The first thing he noticed was a pair of perfect hands. They were slender, fair, and smooth. Sai Yu didn't think that he was obsessed with hands, but he was still attracted to them. Other than being attracted by the flower-rearing livestream, the rest of the viewers were probably attracted by the host herself. The comments on the bullet screen were very lively. When is Yoon going to upload the previous livestream? My heart hurts when I miss the treasure. I set my alarm so that I could watch the livestream immediately. You're not alone. You're not alone. I just want to see when our 7th child will be born. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. Sai Yu didn't want to interfere with the livestream, so he turned off the bullet screen and focused on watching the livestream. After watching for a while, his interest was piqued and he continued watching with interest. Although Sai Yu's potted flowers would die, his knowledge and practical ability to grow flowers was not inferior to most professionals. At the very least, Sai Yu could see that the host was very professional. It was obvious that he had been taught by a master and wasn't trying to please the crowd. Brother Yu, Sister Ning is here. She wants to say hi to you, Sai Yu's assistant, Xiao Gao, said after knocking on the door. Sai Yu nodded casually. Just as he was about to leave the livestream, his attention was attracted by the host's words. After a while, Xia Wanning came in accompanied by her assistant. She took off her sunglasses and said apologetically, Sorry, Brother Yu, I'm late. Xia Wanning was an artist under Haitang Entertainment. She was the previous Best Actress award winner and one of the A-list female celebrities. Her status seemed to be on par with Sai Yu, but in front of Sai Yu, she still had to respectfully address him as brother. Sai Yu nodded and replied politely, You're not late. I came early. Sai Yu was the most popular person in the production crew, so he had arrived early. Those who were well informed had also arrived early, except for those who had backings. Xia Waning's team rushed over as soon as they received the news. However, she had been filming an advertisement in another location the day before, so she was delayed on the way. Xia Waning felt uneasy. This was her first time working with Sai Yu, so this collaboration was very important to her. She hoped that she wouldn't leave a bad impression on him. Xia Waning saw that Sai Yu was focused on his phone as if she didn't exist. She felt even more uneasy. She wanted to say something, but she was worried that she would disturb him and make him even more unhappy. Xia Waning thought about her manager's discussion with Sai Yu. She wanted to see if she could discuss a couple with his team while she was filming. This way, her fame would definitely surpass that of Fang Shui's. However, would a man who had never had any scandals since his debut really agree to create a hype with her? Xia Waning suspected that their plan wouldn't work at all. Sai Yu really forgot about the existence of Xia Waning all of a sudden. For him, the streamer was more attractive than anything else when she explained the situation while feeling the temperature of the soil with her hands. Sai Yu suddenly heard the host say, "Very soon. Once I buy a new computer, I'll organize it and upload it." No, I have enough money. You don't have to send me gifts." Sai Yu opened the bullet screen. The bullet screen was filled with comments asking the host to upload all the previous videos. They all wanted to see them and urged the host to buy the computer as soon as possible. Then, they sent a wave of gifts. Sai Yu felt that this live broadcast was very interesting and wanted to see what the previous live broadcasts were like. Naturally, he had to start from the beginning. He naturally wouldn't be so intimate with her halfway through. Sai Yu casually sent a wave of gifts. He wasn't short of money, so he chose the highest gift, 9,999 yuan. He even typed 100 gifts and casually gave out 1,000,000 yuan. This truly showed what it meant to be inhumane to be rich. At this moment, his assistant came to inform him of the opening ceremony. Sai Yu clicked follow and then exited the live broadcast room. He stood up and was about to walk out when he noticed Xia Waning, who was sitting beside him on pins and needles. He was surprised for a moment and secretly thought that women were troublesome. He then smiled in a friendly manner and said, "Teacher Xia, please." "Brother Yu, you're too polite," Xia Waning replied with a smile and felt a little relieved. Sai Yu didn't seem to be deliberately giving her the cold shoulder. Sai Yu was busy with work. Naturally, he didn't know that his casual gift had caused a huge uproar. Today was the 11th day of Fu Yun's live broadcast. She had just planted the seeds of all 10 varieties of orchids. At this time, she didn't pay much attention to the data. Her main focus was on these seeds. Different varieties of orchids had different environmental requirements such as germination temperature, soil nutrient ratio, humidity, and so on. If Fu Yun wanted them to germinate as soon as possible, she had to pay attention to the situation in the container and adjust the temperature and humidity at all times. It was no wonder that Uncle Guo told her to only focus on the work in the small greenhouse. She really didn't have the energy to do anything else. At this time, only the first, second, and fourth seeds had sprouted. They revealed fresh green, white, and tender sprouts. The little green sprouts poked their heads out of the soil shyly or energetically. It was especially pleasing. As usual, today was a very normal live broadcast. Occasionally, she would answer questions on the bullet screen. Fu Yun thought that it was already very impressive for her to receive a bouquet of flowers every day. She never expected that she would suddenly be rewarded by a nouveau riche. The surprise came unexpectedly. Fu Yun was dumbfounded when she saw a sea of flowers appear immediately after the screen disappeared. What was going on? The platform's reward model was very user-friendly. There were many ways to present gifts for people to choose from. Based on the price, for example, the house model. For example, 1 yuan was a warehouse, 5 yuan was a small single room. 9,999 yuan was a skyscraper. For example, the food model. 1 yuan was a steamed bun, 5 yuan was a steamed bun. 9,999 yuan was a Manchu Han imperial feast. If Fu Yun chose the flower model, 1 yuan was a flower, 5 yuan was a bouquet. 9,999 yuan was a sea of flowers. And if a nouveau riche tipped 9,999 yuan, a sea of flowers, a table of Manchu Han imperial feast, and a skyscraper would appear on the screen. Other than that, the host's live broadcast room would appear on the homepage. Every time the effect disappeared, the live broadcast room would rain red packets, and the audience could snatch red packets. Due to the unending rain of red envelopes, her livestream room was flooded with visitors in an instant. Her popularity numbers instantly shot up from 5,000 to 10,000, to 20,000, to 30,000. And this big boss seemed to have activated some strange mechanism. A few fans also tipped 1 or 2 seas of flowers, and even more fans tipped 1 or 2 bouquets of flowers, so there were so many rich people in her live broadcast room. Other than thanking them, Fu Yun repeatedly asked them not to spend money and not to send any more gifts. She was afraid of them. It's okay, it's just money for a meal. Just take good care of my 6th brother. You big bosses, you've scared Yun 2333, I don't care about anything else. I just want my 2nd brother to debut in the center position among a group of brothers. Until the broadcast ended, Fu Yun was still in a daze. She suspected that she was dreaming. This was a beautiful thing that she dared to imagine in her dreams. However, she looked at her popularity. Originally, it was only about 10,000 followers, but it had already risen to more than 89,000. The number was still rising. Because of this wave of rewards, she jumped to become the new star of the day on the homepage and was ranked first on the popularity list. When she checked her income from the gifts, her hands were trembling. Calm down, Fu Yun Ruo. You've seen the world. It's just a small amount of money. Don't be like a country bumpkin. Calm down. Fu Yun Ruo took a deep breath and counted the numbers a few times. She silently calculated. Adding up the gifts, big and small, and excluding the portion that was given to the platform, she had actually received close to 400,000 yuan today. She was a little dizzy, but when she thought of how most of the rewards had been given to the platform, Fu Yun Ruo instantly had difficulty breathing. Her heart hurt so much. Kai Wen, who was fighting a battle of wits and courage with the puzzle 9 rings, heard the commotion and instantly turned her head to look. Fu Yun Ruo walked out of the small greenhouse with a dazed look on her face and a depressed expression. Kai Wen instantly put down her little toy and crawled over while babbling. What was going on? Could it be that there were haters who came to the live broadcast room to make trouble? Were they attacked by those slanderous words? Fu Yun Ruo hugged Xiaoxiao's soft body and did not say anything for a moment. Kai Wen took the initiative to go over and touched her face softly with her little hand. Ah! He comforted her in all seriousness. There were many haters on the internet who wanted to find a sense of existence in the virtual world because they were unhappy with their lives. There was no need to care at all. In the past, he had encountered many of them. Even if he was scolded like a sieve, he would still be calm and even treat it as a joke. From another perspective, being scolded by others meant that you were going to be popular. This was a good thing. It's okay. I'll remember all the people who are scolding you now. When I grow up and know how to speak, I'll help you scold them back. Kai Wen babbled for a long time. Her little mouth was dry from all the talking. Fu Yun Ruo then raised her hand and fiercely bit her own wrist. Hiss. It was so painful. Kai Wen saw her silly and worried look. Could it be that she had been attacked until she became a fool? It was real. She was not dreaming. Fu Yun Ruo said with a dreamy look, "Son, I'm going to be popular. We've made a lot of money." She had become rich in an hour. She did not have to worry about money anymore. Fu Yun Ruo was full of pride. In the future, drink milk powder as much as you want. Buy toys as much as you want. Choose clothes as much as you want. She did not have to worry about her and her son's livelihood anymore. They were being kept by a nouveau riche. Ha ha ha. I've made almost 400,000 yuan today. 400,000 yuan. Kai Wen. He had been worried for a long time, thinking that there was a problem. It was a good thing that she was popular. 400,000. Kai Wen was stunned. How many days had this woman been streaming? She suddenly earned so much money. Could it be that she had been cheated? No, Panda streaming was a legitimate platform. The only explanation was that she had been heavily rewarded by her nouveau riche fans. It was not that he did not have nouveau riche fans. There were many who spent a lot of money for him, but that was after he became famous. He did not expect this woman to be so amazing. She was indeed the woman who gave birth to him. Kai Wen proudly stuck out his little belly. Fu Yunruo finally felt that it was real. She immediately decided that she would buy. She used Uncle Guo's identity card to register for a shopping website. It did not affect her shopping at all. She immediately bought the laptop with good configuration that she had been eyeing for a long time. She also bought a lot of live streaming equipment under the recommendation of the forum's comments. She even bought a professional camera. Then, she bought a lot of small clothes for the baby. There were not as many styles for the baby boy as there were for the baby girl, and they were not as good looking. Fu Yunruo looked at those beautiful little dresses reluctantly. In the end, she could not help but buy a few. Kai Wen, who had been watching from the side. It was impossible for him to wear a little dress. It was impossible in this lifetime. He would not wear a little dress even if he was beaten to death. Fu Yunruo also bought a massager for Uncle Guo. Recently, he had been massaging his waist and neck from time to time. His body might be a little tired and could be massaged to relieve his tiredness. She still remembered that Uncle Guo had high blood pressure. She also bought a home pressure tester. There were also Uncle Mai and Aunt Mai. Fu Yunruo bought almost everything that she liked. She bought everything that could be interest-free in installments. Those that could not be interest-free were put in the shopping cart first. She only stopped after she had used up all the items that could be spent in advance. She went to look at her own platform again. She became popular all of a sudden. The number of viewers in her livestream broke 90,000, and it might break 100,000 very soon. The sudden exposure brought about a lot of sarcastic remarks in the comments section. They were not as friendly as before. Fu Yunruo tried her best not to pay attention to these. Overall, this was a good thing. Fu Yunruo clicked on the private messages that kept flashing non-stop. This time, the invitation from the platform to sign a contract was much more sincere. On the third day of her livestream, she received a private message. It was a short message from the platform inviting her to sign a contract with the platform. The language was very standard, and it was a very standard short message. Fu Yunruo did not consider signing a contract at that time. She immediately turned off the private message. But this time, she had earned so much in one go. The platform had noticed her again. When she thought of the money that she had to share with the platform, her heart ached. Fu Yunruo hesitated. Before she could make a decision, a WX voice call invitation suddenly popped up on the screen. Fu Yunruo took a closer look. It was a call from Kai Wei Cheng. When Kai Wenruo saw this name, he immediately became nervous. He hurriedly leaned closer to hear what this man wanted from her. Ever since this man left, he had paid special attention to her for many days. They did not have their backs to him and contacted each other. It seemed that their relationship had not developed yet. Kai Wenruo was still thinking that he might have guessed wrongly. Did this woman not marry this person in the end? Later on, he thought that it might be because he always came up with ways to mess things up when they were together that their relationship did not develop. At first, Kai Wenruo felt a little guilty. Later on, he was secretly happy. In this way, she would not abandon him, right? At most, he would earn more money for her to spend in the future. Fu Yunruo did not know what her son was thinking. She only thought that she heard the music from her phone and was curious. She picked up the call. Kai Weicheng's smiling voice came through. Congratulations. Fu Yunruo immediately thought that Kai Weicheng already knew about her livestream. She felt a little embarrassed. You already know? I was just lucky. The people around her did not know much about her livestream. If Fu Yun did not have a friend of the same age who she could talk to, no matter how happy she was, she could only share it with her son. Now that Kai Weicheng mentioned it, she felt quite shy. Don't belittle yourself. Luck is also a kind of strength. Kai Weicheng paused for a moment and said, My friend called me specifically. Although Fu Yun refused to enter the entertainment industry, Kai Weicheng was very concerned about her. He even specially asked his friends to take care of her if there was anything. Kai Wei-cheng still felt that it was a pity. He had watched the live broadcast and realized that she was very popular with the audience and was very likable. If someone were to calculate her data, they would find that the proportion of visitors who clicked into her live broadcast room was very high. To be honest, live streams like flower raising in the cloud were rather boring. Only real flower lovers would watch such live streams. They were relatively unpopular and could not be compared to live streams like pet raising in the cloud. However, Fu Yun just had to become a popular celebrity among the unpopular. Perhaps Fu Yun still did not know that among her fans, other than those who were attracted by the flower itself, there were also those who were attracted by the hand control, those who were attracted by the voice, and those who felt comfortable and relaxed listening to her. Most of the fans would also know people who shared the same interests. 1 spread to 10, 10 spread to 100, and the popularity came. Kai Wei-cheng regretted that he could not get her into the entertainment industry. After all, he needed to work and could not watch live streams often. He did not know about today's live stream at all. It was his friend who called and asked him to persuade her to sign on the platform. After Kai Wei-cheng greeted Uncle Guo and Wen, he went into the main topic. "I heard that you don't want to sign the contract." "Why?" Kai Wei-cheng said. "Panda Livestream has a good reputation in the industry. If it's about the contract, with me around, I can't let you lose out." "No." Fu Yun found it hard to say. "If it's possible, I would like to sign the contract, but..." She was worried that her information would be found out and then be traced back to her. Kai Wei-cheng sensed that she seemed to have something that was hard to say. He was considerate and did not ask further. Instead, he said, "No matter what, you have to think about it carefully. If you don't sign the contract, the platform will not give you good recommendations. You can only rely on yourself in the future." The platform also had to make a living. The recommendation spots were prioritized for their own platform's contracted live streams. Basically, there would not be any recommendations for non-contracted live streams. They could only rely on themselves to get on the popularity list. But how difficult was this? There would not be rich people who would give gifts of millions every day. Fu Yun thought for a moment. Although she had only known Kai Wei-cheng for a short time, he was a trustworthy friend. She said, "I don't want to reveal my personal information." Kai Wei-cheng said in surprise, "The platform keeps the personal information of contracted live streams confidential. It will not be revealed. I don't want to be found out by others." Fu Yun said vaguely. Kai Wei-cheng understood. Yun Ruo should be hiding from someone. He knew that this girl did not look like a child raised in a remote place. "You don't have to worry about this. The platform pays great attention to personal privacy. It will not be found out. Moreover, even if you don't sign the contract, when you convert your income, you have to bind your bank card." Fu Yun's idea was to bind Uncle Guo's bank card and transfer it to his bank card. Uncle Guo would not care about this little bit of money. Moreover, Uncle Guo fully cooperated with her and provided her with the venue and various equipment so that she could successfully livestream. It was Uncle Guo who taught her professional skills. Even if all the money was given to Uncle Guo, she would not complain. There are many live streams on the platform that do not show their faces. If the live stream's identity information is so easy to find out, then those live streams' identities would have been found out long ago. Even if some live stream's identity information was found out in the end, it was not leaked by the platform. It was the live stream who accidentally exposed the information. On the contrary, if you sign the contract with the platform will pay more attention to the protection of your information. If that was the case, then there was nothing wrong with signing the contract. Kai Wen patted Fu Yun's hand and looked up at her. What was she hesitating for? Sign the contract. Look, baby Wen already wants you to sign the contract. Kai Wei-cheng heard Meng Meng's cute little voice and said with a smile. Fu Yun lowered her head and looked at Wen. The balance that was wavering suddenly tilted to one side. She said solemnly, "I'll sign it." "Okay, if you don't mind, I can help you to negotiate the contract. When the time comes, you can see if you want to sign it or not." Fu Yun did not hesitate and agreed. She did not understand the internal situation. Kai Wei Cheng was in this circle and he knew more about these things. Then I'll have to trouble you, brother Kai. It's no trouble. Kai Wei Cheng said a few more words before hanging up the phone. Fu Yun continued to live a busy life. That night, Kai Wei Cheng sent her a contract. Fu Yun looked at it carefully. All the conditions were listed very clearly and there was nothing disadvantageous to her. On the contrary, she would be treated very well. As long as she guaranteed more than 60 hours of live streaming a month, it would be an average of 2 hours a day. This was very easy to achieve. During this period of time, she had been streaming for about 3 hours a day or even more. The contract also thoughtfully listed detailed privacy protection clauses. The contract would be signed for 5 years. This period of time was neither long nor short. It was within her acceptable range. The treatment was also not bad. It was still a 30-70 split. However, she would get 70% and the platform would get 30%. The contract also stipulated how many recommendation spots would be guaranteed in a month. This ratio was something that only very famous streamers could enjoy. Fu Yun was a pure newcomer. Her popularity in the same batch was among the top, but she was not the most outstanding. To be able to sign such a generous contract, Kai Wei Cheng must have put in a lot of effort. Kai Wei Cheng even sent her a message, "See if there's anything you're not satisfied with. I'll help you talk about it." Fu Yun immediately replied, "There's no need. I'll take this. The treatment is very good. I can accept it." If Fu Yun knew that she was taking advantage of this, how could she be greedy? She quickly signed the electronic contract. Contracts were divided into electronic contracts and paper contracts. Both contracts had the same legal effect. Nowadays, contracts were usually signed electronically, unless a paper contract was specifically requested. After officially becoming a signed streamer of the platform, her treatment instantly changed. After changing the recommendation spots once a week, she was pushed to the front page of the newcomers list. Her live streaming popularity and attention increased significantly every day. During this period of time, the things she bought online arrived one after another. On the first day that the computer came back, she immediately learned how to edit videos. After a few days, she finally produced a result. After uploading it to the platform, the response was not bad. Soon, it was forwarded and commented by fans. The camera also arrived. Fu Yun used the camera to take photos of orchid grass. She did not use her phone anymore. She took a photo every morning and night, then coded the date and saved it on the computer. Originally, she did not know what to say on the forum. Now, she self-taught herself and shared the photos every day. She even learned how to Photoshop cute pictures. Indeed, the fans became more enthusiastic. Fu Yun occasionally focused on doing things and forgot that she was streaming. The audience chatted in the comments. It was very lively. Sometimes, she was too serious. Unknowingly, she streamed until 11 o'clock and had to cook before she remembered to turn off the live stream. Now, other than streaming regularly, she did not have to worry about the live stream. The platform assigned a room manager to her. There were also 2 fans who volunteered to be room managers to maintain order in the live stream. As long as there were bad comments, they would immediately be kicked out. They would be restricted from entering and the comments would be deleted. In any case, there was rarely any negative news in front of her. Fu Yun's live streaming career was in full swing. Occasionally, she would suddenly think of the nouveau riche who could be said to have changed her. However, ever since that day, that person had suddenly tipped 1,000,000 yuan, that person had not appeared in the live stream. It made people suspect that she was the one who had spent the money. Fu Yun thought to herself that if she had the money, she would have been lying down and enjoying it. Why would she bother to stream? However, she had too many things to do every day. Her days were very fulfilling. Occasionally, she would think of this nouveau riche, but she would quickly forget about it. Unknowingly, 2 months had passed. Baby Wen was already a 9-month-old baby. Fu Yun's most relaxed and happiest time every day was when she had parent-child activities. "Baby, don't be shy. This dress is very comfortable." Fu Yun coaxed from behind. She was holding a set of autumn one-piece pajamas in her hand. Her entire body was fluffy and pink. There were 2 rabbit ears on the top of the pink little hat. There was a fluffy ball behind her butt. She looked playful and cute. It was clearly a female baby's pink bunny pajamas. The 9-month-old baby Wen had nimble hands and feet. Her 4 limbs were very fast as she crawled around the bed in circles. Fart. Fart. Kai Wen thought, what kind of strange dress is this? It's fine if she's wearing a little skirt, but she still wants to wear this. He would not wear it even if he was beaten to death. Chapter 17. Kai Wen had been very troubled recently. He felt that he had indulged this woman too much, allowing her to ride on his head and behave atrociously. Look at what she had done wrong recently. Not only did she dress him up in gaudy clothes, but she also made him wear small skirts to take photos. She did not even let go of his sleeping time. He was a handsome, confident, and dignified man who was 1.85 meters tall. She was not a delicate woman. He should not have indulged this woman. She was used to being insatiable. If it were not for the fact that she had been so busy and tired recently, he would not have been so obedient. Kai Wen huffed and puffed as he crawled quickly. However, no matter how he crawled, he was only crawling within the range of a bed. How could he escape from Fu Yunruo's 5 fingers? Fu Yunruo easily suppressed Wen. She smiled like a wolf grandmother. Wen, don't be shy. I know you will definitely like it. Fart. Fart. Kai Wen's chubby face turned red. His little chubby hands and feet were flailing around. His little butt could not control itself and twisted like a caterpillar. He had the ability to act out what it meant to refuse. Baby, are you really not going to wear it? If you wear it, Mommy will love you so much more than yesterday. If you are not willing, then Mommy will only love you a little more than yesterday. Fu Yunruo had a coaxing look on her face as she vividly gestured so much and so little distance. Wen's baby stopped struggling and revealed a hesitant expression. Fu Yunruo revealed a smile and was about to put it on for him when Wen started to crawl again. He was not going to fall for it. He crawled, he crawled, he crawled, he crawled, he crawled. Why was he still at the same spot? Kai Wen moved his limbs for a long time, but he was still at the same spot. He turned his head to look. It turned out that the small clothes on his back had been grabbed. No wonder he could not move. Fu Yunruo could not stop laughing. Her baby was really too funny. Why was he so cute? Kai Wen's small body was being pulled over. Seeing that he was about to be harmed, Kai Wen panicked and instantly broke through his self-control. No. The word no was clear and sonorous. Fu Yun said in surprise, "Baby, you can speak?" She heard it clearly. The word no was spoken clearly and clearly. That cute little voice was simply too cute. Fu Yun's tone softened a little. Her voice sounded like it had been mixed with sugar. "Call me Mommy tilde come and learn from Mama. Mama tilde." She shut her mouth and stopped talking. She tilted her head and squeezed into Fu Yunruo's embrace, arching her small body. Mom tilde Fu Yun was not discouraged and patiently taught him how to speak. Kai Wen did not utter a word. Her entire body was buried in Fu Yunruo's embrace, only revealing her plump little butt. Fu Yun dug Wen out and hugged her. All right. Baby just learned how to talk. If you don't want to talk, then don't talk. Fu Yunruo was very distressed. When other babies just learned how to talk, their babbling was similar to their mother's voice and father's voice. She also often said the word mama, but the baby just did not know how to follow. He was still imitating adults and babbling, but he was not like other babies who were curious to explore a new world and talk non-stop every day. The baby was very quiet. He would only say vague words when he was forced into a corner. This was the first time the baby said such clear words. Sigh, I really want to hear the baby call me Mommy. The baby seemed to feel Fu Yunruo's depressed mood. He quietly raised his head and leaned over to kiss her chin. Then, he continued to bury his face. The soft cotton candy-like kiss landed. Fu Yunruo was instantly elated. She smiled and said, "Ayaya, baby's kissing magic is really amazing. Mommy's mood has become better tilde then," as if by magic, She raised the pink rabbit pajamas. If baby wears this pajamas, mommy will be even happier. Kai when baby was speechless. Don't tell me baby doesn't love mommy anymore. Fu Yunruo looked aggrieved and was about to cry. Baby, don't you love mommy anymore? Mommy is so sad. It's happening again. Kai Wenruo looked like he had nothing to live for. He knew it. This woman knew how to do this. Kai Wenruo gave up struggling and did not move at all. Fu Yunruo changed the baby into a one-piece pajamas with a smile on her face. The chubby little body was wrapped in the warm and fluffy pink rabbit pajamas, only revealing a pair of bright and round eyes. His cheeks were puffy, and the pink color made the baby's skin look even fairer and more delicate. He was so cute that it made people's hearts melt. RRR, baby is so cute. So cute. Fu Yunruo could not help but take a few photos with her phone. As soon as he faced the camera, Kai Wenruo subconsciously put on his best pose, showing the side that he thought was handsome but was actually cute. After Kai Wenruo finished posing, he closed himself off again. It was a habit that he had developed in his previous life. Once he faced the camera, he would subconsciously show his best side. He wore such childish clothes and actually cooperated with the camera. He added another stroke to his dark history. Fu Yunruo did not know her son's conflicted state of mind. She looked at the photos on her phone that could be used as a model without any editing. She thought to herself, what kind of peerless cuteness is this? The cutest and most handsome baby in the world was born by her. She was really too great. After playing for a long time, Fu Yunruo saw that it was already past 10 o'clock and quickly coaxed the baby to sleep. In less than 2 minutes, she coaxed the baby to sleep. Fu Yunruo picked out 9 photos with great difficulty and put a cute emoji pack on the appearance. She placed the emoji on the forum and wrote, "My family's peerless cuteness." Fu Yunruo did not deliberately hide the fact that she had a child. Her fans also knew about it. She was not an idol or a celebrity, and she did not rely on her looks to make a living. The fans could accept that she had a son. They even liked her sharing the baby. Then, they all thought that this was their family's Xiao Yi, who was also their youngest. Sure enough, as soon as she posted the photos, many comments immediately appeared. Sixth brother's mama fan, even if I can't see the youngest's appearance, I can feel a strong sense of cuteness from the screen. Youngest sister fan, Yun Ruo is talking nonsense. This is clearly my little cutie. Have you watered the flowers today? As expected of our family's Laoi. Imagine that white and tender skin, those big black eyes, that small and delicate nose, that pink and pouty mouth. I'm so adorable that I need a kiss from Laoi to get up. Fu Yunruo was overjoyed and proud. Her baby was so popular. The baby would be a great best actor in the future. Sure enough, even if he was still a baby, he was very popular. After showing off her baby and reading the comments for a long time, Fu Yunruo finally hugged Wen baby and fell asleep in satisfaction. The next day, Fu Yunruo was woken up by the vibration of the alarm clock. She lay in bed and hugged the small warm stove, not wanting to get up. However, she had to go to work and could not laze in bed. Fu Yunruo got out of bed and changed her clothes. She turned back and tucked in the corner of the blanket. After making sure that her son was still sleeping soundly, she walked out of the room quietly. As soon as she walked out of the room, the cold wind blew on her face. She instantly shivered. In early winter, most of the cities in the north had already snowed heavily, but the cities in the south were still sunny. However, Fu Yunruo was in a remote mountainous area, and the terrain was higher. It would frost in the morning and evening, and the coldness seemed to seep into her bones. Only when there was a warm sun in the afternoon would there be some warmth. Fu Yunruo woke up every morning and stood in the courtyard for a while. Her hands and feet were as cold as popsicles and could not warm up for a long time. After she finished washing up, she filled a basin with hot water and brought a cute little towel, a small washing cup, and a small toothbrush into the house. The weather had turned cold. Fu Yunruo was not the only one who wanted to stay in the warm bed and not get up. Fu Yunruo carried Wen baby, who was still in a daze, and gently coaxed him to finish brushing his little baby teeth. She washed him with hot water and wiped his face with a warm towel. Then, she changed into thick clothes and put on a small vest. Finally, she applied the fragrant baby cream. A fragrant round ball was freshly baked. Kai Wen moved his hands and feet with difficulty. He was already full of milk fat. After putting on a few thick clothes, it was even more inconvenient for him to move. He felt that he did not need to wear so many clothes, but there was a saying that made your mother feel cold. Kai Wen could only be wrapped into a ball and carried behind Fu Yunruo with a strap. Then, he was tightly wrapped in a cloak and taken away. Riding on a donkey early in the morning, the air was cold. However, Fu Yunruo did not feel very cold at this moment. The small heater on her back was constantly transferring her body heat, and her body was starting to warm up. Fu Yunruo arrived at the flower garden and entered the flower shed before putting Wen down. The indoor temperature of the flower shed was controlled to a constant range, but the ground was still cold. The area where Wen was playing had already been covered with a thick and soft blanket. It was warm and not cold to sit on it. Fu Yunruo opened the live broadcast room skillfully and greeted the audience. When she saw the audience sending bullet screen comments saying that it was sad that she had to get up early in the morning to rush to the subway on such a cold day, she comforted them. Fu Yunruo felt the same way. She felt that it was also very sad for her to drive the donkey for more than 20 minutes every day. In such weather, it was difficult to persevere without a certain level of perseverance. Especially when it rained, it was wet and cold. Fu Yunruo was already considering whether or not she should stay here. However, she could not bear to leave the environment of the old house. She lived in the village and had a good relationship with the neighbors. She also had Uncle Mai and Aunt Mai to take care of her from time to time. If there was anything, she just had to shout and someone would come over to help. However, she lived here, which was a little far from the village. As she stayed in the flower shed all day long, she was not familiar with the people outside the village. This place was also a little remote. But on the other hand, it was more convenient for her to live here. She did not have to go to work every day in the wind and rain. In the future, she could also do a live broadcast at night. The baby was still so young. She was worried that he would not be able to take it in the long run. Fu Yunruo thought for a moment and decided to spend most of the winter here. When the weather was hot, she would return to the old house. The old house was still rented. When the time came, she would live on both sides. However, she had to ask for Uncle Guo's opinion first. Although she had given a room here, it was only used for lunch break. If she brought her son over to live, it would be more troublesome. Fu Yunruo thought of a lot of things in her heart, but in reality, it did not take long. The work in her hands was not delayed at all. She casually glanced at the screen and saw someone spamming flowers and bouquets of flowers. She thanked them seriously. There were not many rich people who spent a lot of money, and there were even fewer people like that digital user who spent a lot of money. Although her popularity had been rising, the number of followers was close to 900,000, and the average number of people who watched her live broadcast every day was 300,000. Only a very small number of these people would send her gifts every day or occasionally. Only one audience member would send her a sea of flowers every 5 or 6 days. However, now that her average daily income was tens of thousands, Fu Yunruo was already very satisfied. Viewers like the previous one who spent millions could only be found by chance. As expected, people could not stand being nagged. Speak of the devil. Her live broadcast room was instantly flooded with a glittering message. Your leaderboard master 998-353-5444 has entered the live broadcast room. Chapter 18. The script that Sai Yu had accepted was a film script. In order to achieve the best results, the crew had gone to a remote location to film. The internet signal was intermittent. In order to rush for the Chinese New Year, the filming schedule was tight. Everyone's scenes were compressed again and again. As the male lead with the most scenes, no matter how good his acting skills were, Sai Yu felt that it was too much for him. Just because he could pass in one take didn't mean that his co-stars could pass in one take. Usually, he had to bring them into the scene. The director was very picky. Even though the crew was in a rush, they had to ensure that every scene was perfect. Fortunately, the filming was finally completed. The night he returned home, Sayu slept hard. He was fully energized the next day. After working out in the gym, he went to the bathroom to take a shower. He wore loose pajamas that faintly revealed his Apollo's belt. With a towel draped over his head, he walked out of the bathroom while drying his wet hair. After drying his hair until it was no longer dripping, he casually threw the towel aside and lazily sank into the soft sofa. His short black hair was messy, and a few strands fell on his full forehead. His slender fingers picked up a low-key and luxurious black phone. As he unlocked the screen, he leaned back and stretched his body. It was time to take care of flowers again. He instinctively wanted to poke his manager to hurry up and send a pot over. Then, he remembered the live broadcast he had watched the other day. His finger swiped over the chat app icon and clicked on the live broadcast platform. At this time, the only streamer he followed was in the middle of a live broadcast. Sayu entered the live broadcast room. He raised his eyebrows when he saw that the popularity was completely different from what he remembered. If he remembered correctly, the first time he had entered the live broadcast room, the streamer had only been a nobody with a few thousand viewers. After a short period of time, there were already 300,000 to 400,000 viewers. Had there been a change while he was away? The colorful bullet screen covered the entire screen. Sayu clicked his tongue and closed the bullet screen. When he saw the refreshing interface, his eyebrows relaxed. The streamer seemed to have noticed him and specially greeted him. Her voice was clear and pleasant. "Thank you, 998-353-5444, for your tip." Sayu thought about the gift she had casually given the other day and commented, "You're welcome." The host's voice was full of sincerity. "I still have to thank you. You've helped me a lot, and I'm very grateful. I don't know if there's any live broadcast you want to watch, or if there's any orchid you want to watch. You have the right to make one request, and I will do it." As if the bullet screen had said something, the host explained, "There won't be any in the future. I don't recommend that everyone give me so many gifts at once. If you can afford it, I'll be very happy if you can occasionally give me a flower or a bouquet of fresh flowers." Sayu scrolled through the comments section of the livestream and saw a comment from the host. She briefly introduced the 10 types of orchids that she cared for. Thereupon he commented, "Is there no copper sparrow or gold emperor?" Sayu was the #1 fan in the livestream. She was also the #1 fan in the livestream. Every comment she made had a fluorescent circle that was very eye-catching. Fuyun saw that the comments section had become even more lively after the digital audience appeared. Everyone was obviously very curious about this mysterious tycoon who had suddenly tipped £1,000,000 and then disappeared. "Are tycoons so down-to-earth?" 666 Fuyun smiled and replied, "No, if you want to raise it, I can raise it." As one of the easiest types of orchids to raise, the Golden Emperor could not stand out in the voting. The orchids that Fuyun planted were the ones that were more difficult to raise and were more valuable. Fuyun was very surprised that the digital audience had mentioned such an ordinary type of orchid. She had thought that he wanted to see her raise the ghost orchid. The ghost orchid was one of the rarest types of orchids in the world. It was forbidden to harvest wild orchids and was very rare in the world. It was very difficult to cultivate it artificially. Even Uncle Guo, who had been immersed in the art of orchids for 40 to 50 years, could not cultivate a ghost orchid. It was a rare treasure that could only be found by chance. If it was the Golden Emperor, she could completely take care of it. There are some seeds of the Golden Emperor in the flower shed. I'll find them now. The Golden Emperor did not need to be taken care of too much. It could be seen everywhere in the flower bed. She had just planted a batch of them and it was just right to transplant them into the flower pot. Fuyun carefully dug out the seeds that were showing signs of germination and planted them in the flower pot alone. "Okay, this is our family's little 12. As soon as Fuyun finished speaking, the comments exploded. "No, I don't accept it. No one can shake Zai position as the old young master. So what if he's rich? I only accept him as little 11. He can't be the old young master. Yes, the old young master can only be Zai." Fuyun could not help but laugh. Why were the fans so cute? She comforted them. Okay. Bao Bao is the old young master. This is our new member, 11. Fu Yun thought that the fans were already used to calling Bao Bao old young master. If there was another orchid behind, it would not be old young master anymore. She simply agreed to the fans' request and changed the position. In the future, her Bao Bao would be little 12. Only then did the fans become obedient. Yu was also very satisfied. He did not care about these so-called rankings. It was fine as long as the broadcaster could raise the orchids he wanted to see. Then, he casually sent a few gifts and left a message, raise it well. When Fu Yun saw the sea of flowers appear on the screen, her heart instantly jumped. She hurriedly said, don't send gifts. You have already sent a lot previously. I will take good care of the flowers. Big Boss has scared Yun Yun. 233333. The screen was filled with good-natured laughter. Fu Yun repeated it twice. When she saw that there was no more sea of flowers on the screen, her heart slowly relaxed. Although it felt good to become rich overnight, Fu Yun preferred a steady stream. She was not short of money now. She would not change her ways to ask her fans for gifts. She would also stop them when she saw that they had sent too many. Fu Yun felt that she was the broadcaster that the platform disliked the most. However, the platform had not interfered with her before, so she did as she wished. It was best if she was happy doing it. When the time for the live broadcast was up, Fu Yun bade farewell to her fans and audience and turned off the live broadcast. When she went out to help Uncle Guo, she also mentioned that she wanted to move here. Uncle Guo was very displeased with this. If you want to stay, then stay. Why are you asking me? He had long wanted the mother and son to stay here. There were rooms and everything. Every day, he could not bear to see this orphan and widow go through the wind and rain. However, he also knew that this place was not as convenient as living in the village, so he did not say anything. If Fu Yun took the initiative to mention it, Uncle Guo would have something to say. Fu Yun smiled. Okay, then I'll go back and pack up tonight. I'll move here starting tomorrow. She thought that Uncle Guo was quite lonely here alone. It was good for her and her son to stay here. They could take care of each other. After 5 o'clock, Fu Yun brought her son back to the village. After the weather turned cold, Fu Yun went back early every day. After autumn, the nights slowly became longer and the days shorter. Basically, the sky would turn dark after 5 o'clock. It would be completely dark before 6 o'clock. It was not safe to drive back in the dark. Fu Yun went back at 5 o'clock every day. However, because she had to do a live broadcast, she still woke up at the same time in the morning. She carried her son and specially went to look for Aunt Mai. She told Aunt Mai about this matter and asked her to help take care of the old house occasionally. She would continue to rent it and come back to stay often. Aunt Mai was very supportive of Fu Yun's decision. It was not a good idea to bring such a small child back and forth every day. The weather would get colder later. Not to mention children, even adults would not be able to stand it. Even if Fu Yun did not mention it tonight, she would still look for her to talk about this matter. Aunt Mai promised, you can stay there with peace of mind. I'll be here. Sorry to trouble you, Aunt Mai. After chatting with Aunt Mai for more than an hour and listening to her talk about some trivial matters in the village, Fu Yun brought her son home and prepared to pack up. There were not many things that she had to pack, mainly her winter clothes. The flower bed was their second place of residence. There were many things that belonged to the mother and son. At the very least, there were daily necessities such as toothbrushes and towels. Especially baby Wen. He spent more time in the flower bed every day. His personal belongings there were more complete than here. In the end, Fu Yun only packed a luggage bag. She thought that she would buy whatever she lacked in the future. The next day, Fu Yun came to the flower bed and put her luggage in the room. She went to the flower shed and started the live broadcast on time. Not long after the live broadcast, Fu Yun saw the number of viewers from yesterday again. Fu Yun thought to herself. At that time, she thought that this was just a big shot who did not enter the live broadcast room and left after casually tipping 1,000,000 yuan. Now that he had appeared for 2 consecutive days, perhaps this big shot really liked orchids. He had disappeared for so many days previously because he was delayed by other things and did not have time to watch the live broadcast. Fu Yun's thoughts flashed through her mind. She focused on taking care of her 11 brothers and sisters. Then, she chose a good angle to take photos of them one by one. Fu Yun suddenly realized that her third and fifth children had finally appeared. She looked at the faint buds on the soil and could not help but smile. Then, the forum posted a picture. Third and fifth children have finally appeared. Those fans who thought that they were the mother, father, brother, and sister fans of third and fifth children were the most excited. The comment section was very lively. Fu Yun picked a few comments to reply to, then continued to take care of the flower bed. From time to time, she would check on baby Wen. Kai Wen quietly stayed in the circled area. He was focusing on the 9 consecutive rings. Fu Yun bought a difficulty level S9 consecutive rings online. He had not succeeded in solving it for many days. Kai Wen thought to himself. It was just a 9 consecutive rings. How could he not be able to solve it? He had even pieced together a 6-sided Rubik's Cube, let alone this small thing. He had to solve it today. Otherwise, that woman would definitely laugh at him. He would definitely not give that woman a chance to laugh at him. Kai Wen struggled for a long time and finally solved the 9 consecutive rings. He stood up steadily with the help of the wooden fence and shouted in the woman's direction. Da! Look! He solved the 9 consecutive rings. Fu Yun, who was observing the potted orchid, turned around when she heard the sound. She saw Wen standing up with the help of the wooden fence and looking up at her with sparkling eyes. Da! When Fu Yun looked over, Wen shouted again in a loud and clear voice. He let go of the hand that was supporting him and waved his little chubby paws at her. His short and chubby body lost its balance and swayed twice. Then, he squatted on the ground. Then, he looked at Fu Yun blankly, as if he did not understand why he suddenly collapsed. Fu Yun immediately felt that he was so cute. She quickly walked over and squatted down. She said gently, "Baby, what do you want to show mommy?" When heard Fu Yun's voice, he immediately raised his little hand at her again. His eyes were sparkling. Fu Yun looked at his little chubby hand. He was holding a 9 consecutive rings that had been solved. She exclaimed exaggeratedly, "Ayaya," when actually solved the 9 consecutive rings. "He's really amazing. Baby is really the smartest baby that mommy has ever seen." Kai Wen subconsciously puffed up his little belly with a proud expression. He was really amazing. It was just a 9 consecutive rings. He solved it so easily. He had a reserved look on his face as he enjoyed the woman's fancy compliments. Fu Yun could not help but carry Wen up and give him a small kiss. Why was the baby so cute? Kai Wen placed his little chubby hand on her face, meaning to reject her. He thought helplessly that this woman was really too clingy. Fu Yun and baby Wen officially lived in the garden. After a few days, they felt how convenient it was to live here. In the morning, they did not have to wake up more than an hour earlier. They did not have to rush back and forth in the cold wind. Moreover, she could do more things at night. After eating, Uncle Guo would help to take care of the children. She could make videos and even occasionally take an hour to do a live broadcast. Moreover, she did not reduce the time she spent with Wen. It was just that this place was too quiet. Other than Uncle Guo, no other neighbors came to chat with her occasionally. However, there was no other way. There were gains and losses. Today's weather was very good. There was a period of warm sunlight in the afternoon. Fu Yun saw that the temperature was so good. She took out the bedsheets and blankets to dry and took the children to bask in the sun. Fu Yun carried Wen and lay on the recliner. There was a blanket on it, and their bodies were warm from the sun. Their eyes were squinted lazily, and their similar faces had the same expression of enjoyment. Uncle Guo suddenly came out of the small bungalow. He did not look too good. Fu Yun suddenly woke up and sat up. Uncle Guo. When Uncle Guo saw the mother and son, his gaze softened. He glanced at Wen, who looked sleepy as if he would fall asleep at any time, and his voice was a little lower. "I'm going to the Guo family for a while. I'll be back tonight. You don't have to make me dinner." "Okay." Fu Yun did not know what happened, but she did not ask further. Uncle Guo said a few words and left quickly. Fu Yun's sleepiness was completely gone. She gently patted Wen's small body and coaxed him to sleep. When the child fell asleep, Fu Yun carried the child back to the house, put him under the blanket, and lay down. Looking at Wen's sleeping face, she leaned over and kissed him gently. The sleepiness that had just been driven away came back again. She closed her eyes and quickly fell asleep. The mother and son had a good afternoon nap. After waking up energized, they washed up and went to the flower shed. Uncle Guo was not around, so she had more things to do. Fortunately, Wen was very obedient. As long as she was within range, he would not make a fuss. Wen sat on a thick furry blanket, surrounded by a pile of toys. He was not interested in these toys. He climbed to the side and stood up again with the help of the wooden railing. His small body was still very short. When he stood up, he was not even as tall as the wooden railing. He held the wooden railing and walked a few steps shakily. After Wen could stand up, he began to slowly learn to walk. In his memory, walking was a very simple matter. Logically speaking, he should be able to walk as soon as he walked. However, in fact, if he did not hold on to something, he would soon lose his balance and fall. A child's bones had not completely grown, and his balance was not strong enough. He could not control himself at all. He did not like to sit on a baby walker to learn to walk. Every day, he would learn to walk by himself. At night, he would be led by a woman in bed to learn to walk. He would be praised for every step he took. After walking for a while, Wen was covered in sweat. He felt very hot and wanted to take off his clothes. He secretly glanced in the woman's direction. Seeing that she was not paying attention to him, he sat down and pulled his clothes up with great effort. A cool wind blew into his stomach, taking away the sticky heat. Phew! It was much more comfortable. Fu Yunruo observed an orchid for a while and found that the orchid's nutrition was a little unbalanced. It took her half a day to change the soil. After confirming that there was no problem, she went to see Wen. She did not know what he was playing at the moment. Fu Yunruo thought about buying some intellectual toys for the baby. He liked to play with these more. Fu Yunruo walked over and found Wen lying on the blanket, seemingly asleep. No wonder she did not hear any movement. He was really a little sleeping pig. She softened her brows and walked over softly, preparing to carry him. Although the temperature in the flower shed was higher than outside, it was winter after all. The later it was, the colder it would be. As soon as her hand touched him, she felt that something was wrong. She carried the baby over. His face was red and sweating, and his forehead was so hot that it was scalding. The baby's breathing was very heavy, and the air he exhaled was hot. Wen had a fever. Fu Yunruo's face was full of anxiety. She hurriedly wrapped Wen up and carried the child out. When she was about to reach the door, she remembered that she did not take her wallet, so she hurriedly ran into the room, took her wallet, and ran out in a panic. Fortunately, there was a health station not far from the flower bed. She hurriedly ran over and said anxiously, "Sister, can you help me take a look at the baby? He's sick." The doctor at the health station was a woman in her early 50s. At this time, there were still 2 or 3 patients at the health station. Everyone saw a young woman carrying a sick child in a panic, so they did not mind her cutting the queue. An auntie hurriedly said, "We can't neglect a child who is sick. Iyun, take a look at the child first." Dr. Iyun hurriedly let Fu Yunruo sit on the bench inside. She stuffed a heat probe under the child's armpit and then placed the stethoscope on his chest. Wen seemed to be very uncomfortable. His little mouth mumbled a few words, but he did not wake up. Fu Yunruo's heart was in pain. She tried to stay calm and asked, "Sister, how's the child? Is he okay?" Dr. Iyun estimated the time and took out the heat probe. 38.5 degrees. The child has a fever. Dr. Iyun's expression was grave. Fortunately, there was no noise in the chest. However, this illness was very aggressive. If she was not careful, it could turn into pneumonia. She still had to be careful. Then what should we do? How do we reduce the fever? Wen's cheeks were abnormally red. His breathing was very heavy, and it seemed that the situation was very serious. Fu Yunruo was anxious. Wen has never had such a serious illness since he was born. He only had signs of sneezing when the season changed. But he will be fine after drinking some baby powder. I'll put a fever patch on the child and prescribe some medicine. If the temperature can be lowered, there will be no problem. Dr. Iyun put a fever patch on Wen's forehead. Then, she quickly prescribed some medicine for the child and gave 3 fever patches. If he still has a fever at night, put another fever patch on the child. Take the medicine according to what I wrote. Don't take too much. Fu Yunruo nodded again and again. Dr. Iyun looked at the young mother who was at a loss. She knew that this young mother was inexperienced and felt uneasy. She sighed in her heart and said gently, "If you are really worried, you can go to the hospital in town." There was a specialized pediatrics department in the hospital. It was much more professional than her small clinic. Yes. Thank you, sister. Fu Yunruo was very grateful. She paid the money and took the prescribed medicine. She had never been to this clinic before and was not familiar with this doctor. When she left the health station, she felt even more uneasy. She wished that she could continue to stay in the health station. She could only feel at ease if there was someone who knew medicine by her side. She saw a fully enclosed tricycle parked by the roadside outside the health station. The driver stepped on the accelerator and was about to leave. She quickly went forward and shouted, "Uncle, wait." A middle-aged man with a simple and honest face looked over. "Sister Yun, is the child sick?" The middle-aged man was from the village outside the flower garden. He had met Yunruo and her son a few times. Fu Yunruo nodded. "Uncle, are you going to town?" The middle-aged man nodded. "Are you going to the hospital? Hurry up and get in the car." He actually did not want to go to town. After all, it was already a little late. However, seeing that this child was pitiful, he sent her this trip. "Thank you, uncle." Fu Yunruo got into the car. The tricycle sent Fu Yunruo and her son to the entrance of the town hospital. Fu Yunruo thanked him again and then carried the child into the hospital. She really could not feel at ease. It was better to go to the hospital to be at ease. Fu Yunruo queued up to see the pediatrician. He also diagnosed that there was nothing serious. She also saw the medicine prescribed by the health station and said that it was fine to take the medicine according to this. She was really worried. She stayed in the hospital for a while and waited for the child's temperature to drop before leaving. Fu Yunruo naturally chose to stay in the hospital first. The nurse brought her to a ward and asked when to stay here. If there were any abnormalities, they could look for the doctor. Fu Yunruo sat by the bed and looked at her son who had his eyes tightly shut and a fever patch on his forehead. Her tears suddenly fell. She was too careless. She knew that the baby was so young and could not be separated from someone, but she still relied on him to be obedient and often ignored him. If she had paid more attention, the baby would not have fallen sick. It was all her fault. Wen slept very uneasily. He dreamed that he was being roasted in a stove. When he finally struggled to wake up, he saw a plain white. His body felt uncomfortable. His head was dizzy and his whole body was very tired. Wen immediately noticed the woman who was silently crying by the bed. "Ah," he said. His voice was not as soft and cute as before. It was a little hoarse. "Baby, you're awake." Fu Yunruo hurriedly carried Wen up. "Are you feeling uncomfortable anywhere?" "I'm sorry, baby. Mommy didn't take good care of you." Wen reached out and placed his hand on her cold face. His hand was wet with tears. He wiped her tears and said, "Fut. Not. Out. Don't cry. It's not your fault. It's his own fault." He felt hot and secretly took off his clothes. When he felt uncomfortable, he did not say anything. He thought that he would be fine after sleeping. Wen did not expect that his considerate comfort would make her cry even harder. He was stunned. Was this woman made of water? The room was about to be flooded. Wen couldn't even wipe away her tears. Fu Yunruo cried. The baby was too obedient. He was so obedient that it made her heart ache even more. She could not help but cry. As she cried, she also wanted to see if the baby's fever had subsided. She was not sure if she could tell, so she hurriedly pressed the bell. Not long after, the doctor arrived. She checked that when Wen's fever had subsided. There was no problem. She gave them a few instructions and let them leave. Fu Yunruo thanked her profusely. She carried her son, who was tightly wrapped up, and left the hospital. It was already 9:30 p.m. after a round of torment in the hospital. The hospital was not far from the market in town. There was a road that was more than 800 meters long that led to the center of the street. The road was quiet. The street lamps were quite far away, and a few of them were dim. They must have been broken and had not been repaired yet, making the road look dim. The places where the street lamps could not shine were even darker. There was not a single pedestrian on the road. Fu Yunruo walked in a hurry. As she walked, she was a little scared. She was afraid that a monster would suddenly jump out from those dark places. It was not easy to walk to the street, but she did not expect to see a single passerby. Fu Yunruo had never been to town at night. She did not expect that it was not even 10 p.m., but all the shops were closed. The doors were tightly shut, and there was not a single pedestrian on the street. Even the residential buildings above the shops had basically turned off their lights. Most of the people in town and the village were elderly and children. There were not many young people. In addition, the weather was cold now, so people were more willing to curl up in comfortable and warm beds early. They would not go out if there was nothing to do. At night in town, other than during the New Year, most of the young people would only see supper stalls and pedestrians when they returned. It was not like in a big city. Even if it was 2 or 3 in the morning, one could still see cars and pedestrians, and one could call for a taxi. Fu Yunruo was flustered by her son's sudden illness, so she did not consider these at all. She walked for a long time, and only her own footsteps echoed. A gust of cold wind blew past, lifting the plastic bags and white paper towels on the street. She was the only one on the long street. The pale street lamps pulled her shadow extremely long. Fu Yunruo shivered. She stopped in her tracks and thought that there should be no one at the place where the tricycle usually parked on the street to pick up passengers, right? Without a car, she could not go back. The distance between the town and the village was not short. There was still a long road that was rugged and winding. There were no residential houses on either side, only empty fields. It was fine during the day. Fu Yunruo had never thought that she would be afraid, but at this moment, when she imagined herself taking such a road at night with such a young son, her heart trembled with fear. Why not stay in the hospital for a night and take the car back during the day? Fu Yunruo turned around and walked hurriedly towards the hospital. After walking for a while, she suddenly thought of something. Was there a hotel in town? Fu Yunruo broke out in cold sweat. After thinking for a long time, she remembered that there was a small hotel at the end of the street. That place was closer. It was better to stay in the hotel. Usually, when she went shopping, she did not feel that the road was far. It was as if she could walk to the end in an instant. At this moment, she kept walking, but it seemed that she could not reach her destination. She did not know if it was because of the environment, but Fu Yunruo's nerves became more and more tense. Her heart beat faster and faster, as if it was about to jump out of her chest. In a flash, Fu Yunruo suddenly remembered that the original body fell into the water on the 2nd year after she was chased out of the house. The specific day was not specified in detail, but the time frame was within this period of time. In other words, any day during this period of time could be the node of her death. Fu Yunruo muttered to herself, after hiding for 2 years, I still can't avoid the inevitable ending of death. The power of the plot was so great. Even if she did not fall into the water and die, would she encounter other accidents? Chapter 19. Kai Wen was tightly wrapped up and hugged. He could not feel the cold temperature outside. He stuck close to Fu Yunruo's soft body and listened to her heartbeat, which made him feel at ease. He felt sleepy and wanted to sleep. She had lost some of her vitality after falling sick this time. But not long after, Kai Wen could clearly feel her body tensing up. Not long after, her heartbeat became faster and faster, as if she was afraid. Kai Wen suddenly became alert and wanted to look outside, but he was hugged tightly. He was worried that he would hurt her if he struggled too much. So he listened to the movements outside. It was very quiet outside. Kai Wen thought to himself, this woman couldn't be afraid of the dark, right? She was really timid, she was actually afraid with him around. But, he looked at his own small arms and legs. Alright, he did not have any masculinity now, but he would grow up soon. Suddenly, he heard the woman muttering to herself. After hiding for 2 years, I still can't avoid the inevitable outcome of death. At that time, his mind was blank. This sentence repeated in his mind several times before he understood the meaning of this sentence. Kai Wen felt as if he was struck by lightning, his entire body was stunned. Death, his body started to turn cold and tremble. This word made him afraid, terrified, he wanted to shout and scream, but it was as if his throat was being choked. His mouth moved silently, as if he was shouting, but he could not make a sound. After an unknown amount of time, it seemed like an instant, a short and sharp cry sounded. The next moment, a loud cry pierced through the darkness. W-A, 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 ah, 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 ah. The sudden cry of a baby broke the eerie silence, and also pulled Fu Yunruo back from her endless fear. At the same time, the residential buildings on both sides of the street lit up. Oh my God! Whose child is crying? Who brought their child out to disturb others in the middle of the night? Sorry. Fu Yunruo did not care if they heard it or not, and apologized again and again. Hearing someone's voice, the fear in her heart slowly dissipated. Her cold and numb body also regained consciousness. Fu Yun hurriedly looked at her son in her arms. Oh, baby, don't cry. Are you feeling unwell? Fu Yun jolted and hugged him, using her forehead to press against his forehead. But her face was exposed, and her surface temperature was very low, and when she touched his forehead, his temperature was very high. If Fu Yun was not sure, was she having a fever again? As Fu Yun coaxed the child, she turned around and ran towards the hospital. However, the cries did not stop at all. Wherever she went, the cries would follow. Fu Yun was filled with anxiety and only wanted to reach the hospital as soon as possible. Yun. Fu Yunruo seemed to hear someone calling her in a daze. She was in a daze for a moment before she recognized the familiar voice. She turned around and saw a tricycle stop beside her. Uncle Guo got off from it. Uncle Guo? How is Wen? Uncle Guo asked anxiously. Hearing the cries along the way, his expression became even uglier. Why is she crying like this? I don't know either. Seeing the familiar elder, Fu Yun could not help but choke. Wen is not feeling well. She wished she could take her place and bear all the pain. Uncle Guo hurriedly said, "Get in the car quickly. Let's go to the hospital to have a look." Fu Yun nodded, tears falling down. She did not bother to wipe her tears and hurriedly got into the car. The tricycle rumbled as it drove towards the hospital. Soon, they arrived at the entrance of the hospital. Fu Yun rushed into the hospital with the crying child in her arms. The doctor on duty came over to check on the situation. "Doctor, help me take a look at the child. He keeps crying. Is he having a fever again? Let me take a look." The middle-aged female doctor wanted Fu Yun to put the child down, but the child held on to Fu Yun tightly. The moment he moved, he cried even harder. She could only let Fu Yun carry him. After she checked, she said, "He's having a fever. Is he feeling unwell? He's crying so hard. Is he hungry? I'll go look for milk powder." Fu Yun had already stopped breastfeeding the child, so she could only find some supplementary food or milk powder. It was not easy for her to make milk. Wen vomited after drinking a few mouthfuls. She vomited, drank, and vomited again. Later, she went to the hospital cafeteria to cook porridge before eating a little. The group of adults was tossed and turned. It was not until the second half of the night that Wen stopped crying. It was not that she had cried enough, but that she had cried herself to sleep. Wen's sleep was still very restless. From time to time, she would sob. Fu Yun looked tired and haggard. She said gratefully to Uncle Guo and the middle-aged man beside her, "Uncle, thank you for your help. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to take care of him alone. She could only take care of Wen. Uncle Guo and this uncle were the ones who helped to run up and down the other things. Fu Yun noticed that this uncle who drove the tricycle was the one who sent her and her son to the hospital. His surname was Lin. It's my duty. Uncle Lin was also tormented, but there was no resentment on his honest face. Uncle Guo said, "You've been tired for a long time. Sleep well for a while. If there's anything, we can talk about it tomorrow." Okay. It was already very late. They stayed in the hospital first. There were not many people hospitalized in the town hospital. Fu Yun and Wen slept in the same room and bed. Uncle Guo and Uncle Lin went to the room next door to rest. Fu Yun did not sleep well. From time to time, she would be awakened. She would reach out to check her son's temperature and breathing. After confirming that there was nothing unusual, she would close her eyes. This cycle continued until dawn. Fu Yun could not leave the baby, so she did not get up. Instead, she watched the baby sleep. Perhaps it was because he was still sick last night, but the baby, who should have woken up, was still sleeping soundly. Not long after, there was a knock on the door. Fu Yun carefully got up to open the door. Uncle Guo stood in front of the door with 2 bags in his hands. "Have some breakfast." "Thank you, Uncle Guo." "Have you eaten?" Fu Yun did not have much of an appetite, but she still accepted Uncle Guo's kindness. "Yes." "Is Wen still not awake?" Fu Yun shook her head. "By the way, Uncle Guo, why did you think of looking for me last night?" Uncle Guo frowned. "I didn't hear anything when I came back. Your door was open, and there was no one inside. I couldn't get through to your phone, so I went to ask someone. Only then did I know that you brought the child to town." Fu Yun then remembered the phone in her pocket. She pressed it, but it did not turn on. "My phone is out of battery." Uncle Guo scolded, "You didn't know how to ask for help when such a big thing happened." It was not convenient to travel from the town to the village. It was even more inconvenient and unsafe to travel at night. She did not know how to ask for help. Fu Yun lowered her head and listened to the scolding. She thought of herself yesterday. She really did not care about anything and acted rashly. However, her mind was filled with Wen. She panicked and did not think of how to act properly. "Why did you run around so late last night?" If they had not suddenly heard Wen's cries, they would have directly turned to the hospital and missed her. Fu Yun said embarrassedly, "I thought there was a car and we could hitch a ride back." She did not think of it for a moment. "You can't be so reckless in the future." Yun Ruo was a young and beautiful woman. If she was unlucky and met a strange man in the middle of the night, it would be easy for her to have bad intentions. If something happened, Tian would not be able to help. Okay, Uncle Guo was about to continue lecturing her when a loud cry suddenly sounded behind him. Fu Yun quickly turned around and walked forward. Wen, Mommy is here." Wen had woken up at some point. At this moment, she was sitting on the bed and crying non-stop with her eyes wide open. As she cried, she looked around as if she was looking for someone. When she saw Fu Yun, she immediately opened her arms and cried while asking for a hug. Fu Yun quickly went over to carry the baby. "Baby, don't cry, don't cry. Mommy is here. Mommy loves baby the most. Don't cry, don't cry." Wen cried even more sadly. He did not know that the truth was like this. It was harder to accept the truth than the various reasons for abandoning him previously. It was this woman's death that caused him to be reduced to an orphanage and become an orphan. For the first time, he felt that death was such a terrible thing. Wen was so sad that he could not control himself. She did not abandon him. She did not abandon him. He would rather this woman marry another man for glory and wealth than for a burden like him. He was also unwilling to believe that she had met with an accident. He would rather that she was living well somewhere in this world. Why was the truth like this? Wen hugged Fu Yun tightly and cried heartbreakingly. Fu Yun's tears also came out. She seemed to feel that her son was very upset and was suffering from angina. No matter how she coaxed him, he would not stop crying, just like that night when he suddenly cried in the middle of the night. No, it made her feel even worse than that night. She almost could not breathe. "Doctor, come and take a look." The child is crying again. It turned out that Uncle Guo had gone to find the doctor. The doctor could not find the reason for the child's non-stop crying. Because of his emotional fluctuations, his body temperature, which had just subsided, rose again. Kai Wen cried and fell asleep again. Fu Yun took the opportunity to feed him some porridge and water. Not long after, she fed him some salt water. Kai Wen's eyes were still filled with tears. His little mouth moved unconsciously as he swallowed the food. Moo, ma, 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 ma. The hoarse little voice suddenly made a similar sound. Fu Yun was stunned. Her tears fell just like that. She lowered her head and kissed him. She replied gently, "Mom is here." After Wen's fever subsided, he went for a checkup, but they could not find the reason for his non-stop crying. Aunt Mai, who heard the news and came to the hospital to visit, slapped her head and said, "The child must have been shocked." When Aunt Mai heard that Fu Yun brought the child out of the hospital in the middle of the night and walked outside alone, she immediately looked at her with disapproval. Children should try not to go out at night. It's easy to be shocked. Fu Yun's face was full of guilt. She thought of when suddenly crying last night. She thought of how she felt that day and still had lingering fears. That day, she seemed to have been possessed. She felt that she was shrouded in a strange space, as if she would encounter an accident in the next second. If when had not suddenly cried, she would still be trapped in that inexplicable fear. Fu Yun Ruo couldn't help but think. Could it be that there really was something strange? Thinking that she was an unscientific existence, the more Fu Yun thought about it, the more shocked she became. Prosperity, democracy, civilization, harmony, freedom, equality, justice, rule of law, patriotism, professionalism, honesty, and friendliness. Fu Yun silently recited the core values of socialism a few times before she felt that it was not so scary. The child's fever has subsided. Is there a problem? Yes, the doctor said that the temperature has dropped. As long as it doesn't rise, it will be fine. Then hurry back. It's not a good idea to stay here. The child's emotions are unstable. He should stay in a familiar environment to stabilize his emotions. Yes, okay. With the experienced Aunt Mai around, Fu Yun felt like she had a stabilizing force. She felt that what she said made sense, so she quickly did as she was told. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.